every single day we do anywhere from about $40,000 to about $70,000 per day. So the only reason why I'm saying this is because we started from nothing.
It's just that hunter mentality. It's just that drive that I have in me to just, if something needs to get done, it needs to get done. If I've got projects, if we've got meetings that we have to attend, I'm just, as the saying goes, I'm just locked in. It's just natural.
We're literally giving away cars. We gave away a couple cars to our mid-management. We gave away like 10, 12 motorcycles to some of our employees. We had this big company celebrate. It was like an amazing journey, right? But then it all came crashing down.
We were negative $850K in debt. So the guys in front of us and behind us were way richer than us. They were $850,000 richer than us.
I remember opening up the drawer and looking for 500 rupees, which is like $2. Everything left, gone.
What he was doing, he was waking me up at 6 a.m. on a Saturday as a kid in middle school, and he was putting me to work outside doing yard work. My mom came outside and she said, "Hey guys, you guys can come inside. The food's ready." And my dad was like, "No, not yet. We're not done yet." And I just remember towards the end, he finally told me, he was like, "You might hate me in this moment and you might not understand it now, but you will thank me for it in the future."
People who are making 6 figures plus, you're the first ones to go. Why? Because they can just outsource that stuff to India. They're hiring people in waves from India. They're paying them a fraction of the cost. They're training them. My dad was like, "I'm literally training the person who's gonna
replace me.
Right? That's just what's gonna happen.
We were in a position where we couldn't afford Nestle water. And we're like, okay, what's the next best thing, right? So there was this government facility water, going from 8 figures to standing in line with people that make $60 to $80 a month. Talk about a perspective change in life. You lose your whole
Identity,
yeah.
They pay you just enough to be able to pay all your bills. And I think it's one of the biggest lies. You're wasting time. You're wasting your energy, you're wasting your attention, which is a big currency. Once time goes, it's gone forever. Welcome back, everyone, to another podcast episode. Today, I'm joined by 2 very special guests. These 2 people have been in my life for over 10 years. And not only are they good friends of mine, but they're also my business partners. So on my right, I have Christian. We met in high school, right? We actually started on the football team. And that was our initial time we met. And ever since then, we've been high school business partners through over a dozen different businesses. And, here we are still. We haven't had a single argument till this date. So we're going to share with you guys all the different secrets and all the stuff that, that kind of goes into building good businesses, good partnerships, good friendships. And it's going to be a good episode. And then on my left, of course, I have my younger brother, Mo, who I have personally fought with many times, many arguments. He actually chased me down with a knife once too. So we may share that story when he was younger. But, no, in all seriousness, we actually finish each other's sentences to the level where it's our thoughts are the same, which is kind of a trippy, weird situation, but we are so locked in. Our visions are the same, and we know exactly what we're building here. And that's that's a big reason of why we are where we are. Anywhere from, every single day we do anywhere from about $40,000 to about $70,000 per day. I can even show you guys some of the screenshots. And the only reason why I'm saying this is because we started from nothing. We literally, we have stories that we're going to discuss with you guys today of us collecting coins to be able to go and afford some snacks, right? We come from nothing, Section 8, and we were able to kind of live the American dream and live. Now we are living this type of lifestyle. So this is not about bragging or anything like that. It's just to show you what's actually possible, what the human is capable of doing, and anyone can do this. We are not special. We are nothing that, we're really not special, right? So without further ado, we're going to get right into it, boys. You guys ready?
Yeah, ready.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. So we have a list of 10 questions that, our team has prepared for us. What we're going to do is we're going to kick it off with that. And I think these 10 questions are very, very key. So Christian, if you can read out the questions and just share your answer, and then we'll kind of just circle around and we'll take it from there.
For sure. Yeah. So the first question is, can each of you share a pivotal experience from your childhood that shaped your entrepreneurial spirit? And I'll kick us off because I think it's pretty interesting. Back when I used to go to school, I think it was middle school, I used to, everybody as a kid, I think always used to wake up on Saturdays and they used to be able to, watch cartoons, eat cereal, and just relax from a, long week of school. And for me, it was very different. I had a very old-fashioned, very traditional dad that grew up in Mexico, came from absolutely nothing. He used to tell me stories about how he used to carry buckets of water from the river to his house. I mean, we're talking like houses that were built by hand from rock, clay, and they had literally nothing. You talk about poverty, you talk about Section 8, this is real poverty. Like they didn't have enough money for food or anything. So he comes from that, hardcore, right? And he came here with that dream of being able to set me up, right, the family, for opportunities and a brighter future than that. And with that, sometimes came some things that not most parents would do, and I think it ended up being really good. So the memory that I have specifically is every single Saturday and every single Sunday. He was a little softer on Sundays because we used to go to church, but Saturdays were tough ones. So again, everybody else typically cartoons, eating cereal, pancakes, and the fun stuff on the weekends. And for me, the way I used to wake up was my dad used to come into my room. The way he would open the door too, he would open the door and like push it pretty hard where it would like hit against the wall. So that was his grand entrance. I was like, here I am, I'm coming.
Sounds a little toxic.
And so then he would wake me up. And sometimes, depending on like, I guess how much stuff we had to do, he would come in and just be like, all right, get up, and then sometimes he would come over and be like, hey, it's time to get up. We got some stuff to do. But ultimately what he was doing, he was waking me up at 6 a.m. on a Saturday as a kid in, middle school. And he was putting me to work on like outside doing yard work, picking weeds, picking up, dog poop. We used to have dogs, just whatever he could put me to work with, things that he couldn't do. He was essentially making me do it. And, that was really, really pivotal for me because it set the tone for that work ethic that I had. And I remember a specific day that lives in my memories where, again, it was Saturday morning. We were, I think at that time I was picking the weeds. My mom came outside, and she had just made breakfast, and she said, hey guys, you guys can come inside. The food's ready. And my dad was like, no, not yet. We're not done yet. We'll come in when we're done. And she, they got into like this little bit of an argument in front of me where she was like, he's just a kid. Let him come inside. Let him eat breakfast. It's time. Food's hot. And he just kept on saying like, no, we're going to do it this way, And eventually she went inside, and I was very upset that morning because I was like, well, the food's ready. Like, let me go inside. My mom was saying, let me go inside, but he would not let me go inside. And I just remember towards the end, he finally told me, he was like, you might hate me in this moment and you might not understand it now, but you will thank me for it in the future. And I will say that during, the 1 year that we spent in college, or even in high school, and even now to this day, I have that same work ethic that maybe not many people will agree with. But for example, like I remember sometimes, and even to this day, I just physically cannot get myself to like eat breakfast or lunch until I get the work done that needs to get done.
There's just hunter mentality.
It's just that hunter mentality. It's just that drive that I have in me to just, if something needs to get done, it needs to get done. And sometimes my body just doesn't feel hungry. And my family will ask me, friends will ask me like, have you eaten today? I'm like, no. And they're like, that's terrible for your health. I'm like, I really don't feel it. I just don't feel hungry. It's just, that needs to get done. And I specifically remember back in the college days, because again, it's the way it shapes you as a person. It's how you do anything, how you do everything. So before we even started the business, when I was back in school, I would be studying for my exams. I would be doing my homework, and I just would not eat until it was done. I had 5 classes back when I went to school, and I'd just be studying, have the textbooks with the homework, and I just would not eat until I was done studying, until my notes were done. And same thing to this day. If I've got calls, if I've got projects, if we've got meetings that we have to attend, I'm just, as the saying goes, I'm just locked in. It's just natural.
Yeah, it's really the hunter mentality, just like what Mo said, right? Because back in the day, we were used to first hunting because like there was no refrigerators.
You can't refrigerate all your food. Like you have to go out and kill something, then eat it.
Exactly. And here's the thing, right? Most people think, and you may think to yourself like, okay, but we live in a modern society, Zarar. Well, here's the thing. We do live in a modern society, but we're not that modern, are we?
Yeah.
Right? Like our brains have changed 1% over 50,000 years. That's it, just 1%. But basically, we're the same exact people as we were 50,000 years ago, which means that the same level of things that, the hunter mentality that we're talking about, it's true. Like, if you just eat, and here's another thing, one of the biggest lies that we've been told, in the American culture, in the Western culture, is eat a big breakfast. Do you guys know that that's a pure marketing play? Like, we're pretty good marketers, right? So we had to study a lot of marketing. That's just marketing. Right? So like these big cereal brands and all this stuff, they just did all this lobbying and they convinced us all to eat a big breakfast. And what does it do? sugar level crashes. Like you're just in a level where
Your energy's
your energy
toast.
crashes. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then now what work are you going to get done? Don't know. Right. So what Christian's sharing here with you guys, it may sound kind of, I'm not going to say crazy, but it may sound weird, but there's a lot of wisdom behind if you actually think of some of these things. Right. So on my end, pivotal experience, I think, I've had a couple of those. One of the main ones that really stand out are a lot of lessons from my dad as well, which is actually interesting, right? It's like, I think how you grow up is you're going to be your worldview of how you view the world and how you view things.
And this goes negatively and positively as
positively.
well. So there's child trauma, and there's also like, the things that you learn, exactly like what Christian was doing, picking up like weeds.
And it depends on the parents too, because it's you take in, you learn from them, but then also how you take that and implement it. For example, I could have played the victim. I could have been like, oh, I never had a Saturday. Oh, I never ate cereal. I did the complete opposite. And I was like, this is my drive. This is great. He made life hard for me then, which again, the studying and the not taking, not missing my calls to eat, like that just seemed easy to me. Because life is hard. And he was making it hard then, which is that lesson he was telling me. He was like, you might not understand it now, but you'll thank me for it in the future. And I do. I thank him for it.
My dad used to say the same words and he used to annoy me. But you know what? What's interesting, even when I was a kid, 7, 8 years old, deep down, I had a feeling I knew he was right.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to maybe choose to believe it, right? But now it's like, oh my God. And you know what's interesting? He used to tell me this, literally, like, when you're 20, 25 years old, you're going to then understand, right? But a pivotal experience, for me was my dad was a workaholic. Like this guy, he just doesn't stop, right?
He's a machine.
He's a
Truly
machine, right? Like my brother knows. And again, like me and my brother, I know we don't look alike, but trust me, we're blood brothers, right? Like just, we're actually blood brothers. But really like every time he would go, he would have a book with him. Anywhere we're going. And it got to a point where, very similar to your situation, my mom
She would be pissed.
She'd be pissed. She's like, we're going to someone's house. Why are you bringing a book with you?
Yeah.
So he would just leave it in the car, right? But he's always studying, always reading, always developing his brain and his skills. And he always told me, your skill set is everything. Learn and keep learning and don't cut corners when it comes to acquiring skill sets. Because he taught me a concept of skill stacking, right? When you learn one skill, then you learn the second one. 1 + 1 does not equal 2 at that point. 1 + 1 equals 11.
Yeah, it's a multiplier.
It's a multiplier. It's like compound interest, right? Compound learning, compound skills. So that only occurred to, I started to realize this probably over the past 3 years. Because we learned marketing to a very, very high level. We learned sales to a very high level. We learned client success to a very high level. And now we're in a place where we're literally literally living the life of our dreams because of the concept of what my dad taught me was skill stacking, right? We're doing 40, 50K a day. I mean, yesterday we did 75K. I have a screenshot pulled up. I don't know if you can zoom into that. I think that's 70, 76K something in just a day. And here's the best part. We're not even really working. The team's doing all the work for us, right? But it was because of the early lessons that when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, that my dad instilled in me to acquire these skill sets. And it was a pain, man, to be able to learn something and relearn it and keep and also unlearning the previous habits and stuff. So I'd say from my end, it's definitely that lesson or, a couple of those lessons of what my dad used to tell me.
I think it's for us, it's more of a variety of different things. So it's multiple events that happen. Yeah. But for me specifically, this is not really what I learned from people. It was just me experiencing life for the first time. But I was in high school at the time. And I'm in a third world country at the time, doing high school. And it was horrible. You have to wear your little tie. You have to be dressed up. Literally, I was walking one day and I got stopped and I got sent home because I had the wrong sock on. Right. And this is Pakistan. So they're very, very strict. And again, I'm glad that happened. But I also realized that, first of all, discipline is key. You have to be able to, dress the par. But the second thing is that why this is not for me. I don't want to be forced to wear this. If I want to wear a Versace robe and in my house, I'm able to do that. If I want to go out, I can do that, right? I want to be able to have my own free will. I think that was the biggest thing for me because I was waking up at 6 a.m., literally going to school at 7:30ish, coming back at like 3 p.m. and I would just be toasted because the studies were so hard. It just was not for me. I knew from the beginning, like as soon as I started going to school and like in like ninth grade of high school, like it was horrible, just not something I want to do for the rest of my life, especially like having teachers are good, right? But like having a boss above you, it's just like a really big like gray area. I'm sure you guys feel the same way, but like I don't want to be told like, hey, show up at this time, right? If I want to be able to go jet skiing today, I could do that now because I have a business, right? That was my key like pivotal moment, I think, in high school. But because before that, I was like, you know what? Maybe it's not so bad going after like that 9 to 5 type of thing, you know? Like you don't have to really worry about like liability of the business. You don't have to worry about these things. You just go in there, perform a little bit and just come back home. But it's not like that once you're actually in the trenches.
Yeah.
But that was my key pivotal moment.
And I think a lot of people can relate to that. A lot of people feel that same thing. And I think Zarar and I as well, because we were so close and friends, and then eventually we started businesses together. When we went off to university, we went to 2 different ones, but we still stayed very connected. That was a thing, right? Our principles were drawn to each other, so we always stayed connected. And we felt the same way when we went to university, you know? And we would constantly talk to each other. I mean, for me, it really did piss me off every single morning was driving what should have been a 10-minute drive. And it was 45 minutes to an hour just to get to the school, finding parking. I got to a point, and this is the thing, right? Is like, I think it's just a part of like the person. When you're fed up with something, you're going to find ways like to get out of it. Yeah. And what I mean by that is like, for example, I don't remember what it was, like semester or every whatever, you had to pay for parking. I think I told you this. You had to pay for parking. And I just got fed up with it because number one, it took me so long to find parking. Number two, what am I going to pay for? Like I'm paying for a struggle. And so I ended up taking the same receipt that I paid the last semester, and I would just flip it over so you couldn't see the date, and I'd put it on my dash and free parking. You know,
yeah.
But anyways, what I was saying was, like people can relate with that because it's like, it wasn't that it was hard because he said it was hard. Everything is hard. Life is hard. You know, even us running this business is not easy. It's pretty simple, but it's hard. But what it is you're just not aligned. You're just not aligned with what that is. Same thing with us. Same thing with me explaining the experience with school. I just wasn't aligned with it, and that's what made it even more difficult. That's why so many people are like super depressed when they go to 9 to 5 jobs and they hate it, right? Because they're not aligned with it, but they just find that comfort.
Yeah, comfort because it's paying the bills just enough. So here's the thing, right? Let's talk a little bit about the 9 to 5 thing. It's the biggest drug, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because they pay you just enough to be able to pay all your bills, but then you're left with either like maybe a few $100 or a few $100 negative, right? And then you add credit and you're like screwed. And I think it's one of the biggest lies that we've been told. And also, like, Christian, I think let's talk a little bit about what you said, right? You had the ticket thing or sitting in traffic. When you're in traffic, what does that do? Frustration. Mm-hmm. And no one talks about this, right? Because like we're just conditioned to, traffic is normal. No. Why is it normal? Let's ask questions. When you're sitting in traffic, what does that do to you? You're wasting time. You're wasting your energy. You're wasting your attention, which is a big currency. Yeah. You can make money, no problem. Money comes, money goes. Time doesn't. Once time goes, it's gone forever. Are we talking about that? No. Right? So like when people look at us and they see like, we're successful and like, all this, we had to work really, really hard for this because we understood these concepts. We understood these things of what society does to us to be able to get us like, it's a trap, man. It truly is. It's the golden shackles, the golden handcuffs. And especially now, if you add in a family, say you have a wife, you have kids, now you have to make it happen for them. Yeah. But here's the problem. If you're watching this, you are an entrepreneur at heart. You just are. Or else you wouldn't be watching this. Yeah. And what does that mean? If you have a 9 to 5, well, then now you have to either A, live with the regret for the rest of your life that you couldn't have your business. You couldn't work for someone else. Like you couldn't work for yourself. And you only have to work for the man who you're just a number to. That's just the reality of it. We all, as humans, we always want to feel like, oh my God, we feel special in our company. We got a recognition. We got this little trophy. It doesn't mean anything. Yeah. Nothing, zilch.
You could be gone like this, especially with the economy right now, where you may not even have a job. You're not 100% sure you're gonna have a job in like 10 months. It's like It's insane. They're firing people like this, especially businesses. They're all like collapsing because they don't know how to like manage people properly.
Exactly, man. We were living in this, for the last 10 years, if you look at the stock market, it was a very greed market, right? So like the past 10 years, people are just wanting to make money. They want to make money. Now we're living in a place where it's like, oh, safety, security. Like we have the current administration, you know, I'm not too much into politics. I don't really care too much for it, but that's just the reality of it. So the stock market has slightly pivoted. And what does that do?
If you look at the key indicators,
Yeah.
it's completely different. It went from greed to fear because obviously people are losing their jobs. It's insane.
Exactly. And who loses their job first? My dad told me this one. So that's what, well, by the way, he never wanted to be a manager because he was like, I don't want to be the first one to go. Right? He wanted to be a skilled employee. That's a different subject. But really what happens is people who are making 6 figures plus, you're the first ones to go. Why? Because they can just outsource that stuff to India. My dad was telling me like they're hiring people in waves from India, from these third world countries. They're paying them a fraction of the cost. They're training them. My dad was like, I'm literally training the person who's going to replace me. Right? That's just what's going to happen. So if you're watching this and you have like a 6-figure job or a multi six-figure job, this is the time where you should start to, I'm not going to say be scared. I don't really believe in
skill
fear.
stack.
But like, it's like, be aware of this situation, be aware of the current economy and have something else on the side or have something that you can actually rely on that is going to produce an income for you, right? An income that you're not like busy full time and like just working, you know, like super, super hard on. Just be smart about it, right? If you're watching this again, you're someone who knows how things work. So just being aware of that, I think that's super, super key.
Yeah, and I think the pivot comes from exchanging time for money to exchanging value for money. And I think that's something that we learned very early on because time, like you said, I think this has to be stressed even more. I think you already talked about it enough, but it's like you don't get the time back. You know what I mean? And you're exchanging it for money, which you're going to spend immediately. So there has to be that pivot mentally of like, okay, if I don't get my money back, I have to value that even more. Because the time that you spend in traffic, 45 minutes to an hour. Dude, I know people that are in LA that they drive 2 hours.
Each way.
Actually, even our, you know, like back in San Diego, like people would drive 2 hours to get to work.
Yeah.
What do you do with those 2 hours? You know, and it's just like you said, pure frustration. You're just feeding into that every single day, every single morning. And
then you have to deal with those people, the people who are frustrated as well. So here's what happens. Their projection of their fear of all the bullshit that they're dealing with in life, now you have to face it. The number one thing I'll tell you of having money, of being successful, forget the material things. The number one thing is you having this wall between average and like people who are not, you know, thinking alike and like they're not growth mindset people. That's the number one thing. You can surround yourself with good quality people, feed your thoughts, good things, and your thoughts are going to attract the things that you want in your life. That's the number one thing ever. Would you guys agree?
I totally agree.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And a good way to do that, if you don't have those people around you, you may be like, oh, okay, I mean, my friend, my family members, they're not like the way that I think. They don't think like me. What you're doing right now, watching this podcast, is the second best form of actually getting around like a good community. Because there's other people that are like-minded like you, right? It's like online, we have the currency and it's so hard to not be successful online now because, I mean, you can literally just open up your laptop, make $1 million, right? So it's like the network, the people that you can just like go over with online on YouTube, just watch a podcast. You're around those people now to a certain degree, obviously, but it's better than.
It's the second best thing.
It's the second best thing, basically. Yeah.
And then books. I think books are very important. They've shaped our lives. We've read, you know, a couple hundred books each person. I think that's very, very key as well. But yeah, this is good stuff, guys. Let's move on to the next question. So how far back does your entrepreneurial journey begin? And what was the last line that was drawn before you decided things needed to change? You want to kick it off?
Yeah, I mean, I can kick off because that thing is kind of two-parted. Yeah, I think so. The very first one, which was like, how far back does your entrepreneurial journey begin? I think most people watching this will agree that, again, entrepreneur at heart, you just have instances, you have memories of like things that show you that you wanted to do your own thing, right? And for me, I remember this specific memory, but it's always been, because I know people who like, you know, always sold cars or sold whatever. Back in, this was, I don't know, 4th grade maybe, I had this wonderful idea, and I told my mom, and I was like, hey, we'll go to the 99-cent store, dollar store, right? Everything's $1, and I'll just mark it up and I'll sell it at school. because constantly you see people like, oh, I forgot my pencil, or I forgot my eraser. Or, I can remember at the time they used to like put things on like their pencils, like the little, I don't remember what they were.
Eraser type of thing.
Eraser type of things.
It's the green ones.
You would decorate it, right? And so these are things that people naturally either wanted or needed in school. So I was like, okay, let me just buy them and then just kind of mark it up a little bit. Now, obviously, back then I was thinking about it a much simpler way, but now I'm kind of describing it. So I used to have this bag in my backpack full of those things, and I just go around and like showing people like, hey, do you want this? Do you want this? And so that was kind of, I guess, my start of like really stepping into that role of like truly being an entrepreneur, marking things up, selling, again, something of value, right? I wasn't just selling random stuff. I was selling things that people typically needed in school. So I had my ideal client, I had my product, and I had the solution to the problem. And I just remember this one time, which is very interesting. I think there's something that we were hitting on, which is like the traditional methods of kind of life in school. Because I got in trouble. There was a kid that for whatever reason, that guy just took my back and was like looking around and made it very obvious what was going on. And the school had rules about like selling or reselling things at school. So it's very interesting, right, that they had that. And obviously we can go a lot deeper into like why they're doing certain, like why don't they allow you to like kind of think and do things on your own, kind of like an entrepreneur. But that was kind of my first step into entrepreneurship, like truly like really getting into, what that looks like, of like exchanging, right? Thinking about it that way. Obviously at the time I was just like very simple. Okay, people want this, I'm going to sell it. But now when you look back at it, it's like, it truly is like what a business is built on. You find a problem, you design a solution, that's your product, and you go to your ideal clients. And that's exactly what I did back then.
Yeah, 100%. I think for me, it was in high school. So my mom used to make these amazing tuna sandwiches. And, one of my friends, actually, Ari, you know him. Mm-hmm. You remember him?
Yeah,
the soccer guy? Yeah. So we went to the same high school, right? He was like, oh my God. He wanted to try some. He tried it and he was like, dude, I'll just buy this from you. And I was like, interesting. So I went to my mom. I was like, can you please make a couple of these sandwiches? Because I think some of the kids at school, they would need it. So we went to Target, got a bunch of this stuff, and started selling like hotcakes. And he started telling other people. Mm-hmm. So now I look back at it, my strategy was referral strategy, right? He told this person, that other person told this. And like I had like a group of like 8-9 kids in like a day or two of like, oh, I want sandwiches too. And I realized like, if you have a good product, I think our client success department is built off that now,
it really
right? Because like a lot of people, right, they focus so much on the branding or the marketing. No one really focuses on the product.
Yeah.
But the best form of marketing is your clients. So like for me, Ari was my client and I was like, I don't have to do any marketing. I don't have to spend any money. Like, now if I think about it from these concepts, that really lit a light bulb in my moment. Like, okay, I have to focus a lot on the product and it's just going to sell itself. So I think that's,
Yeah. I didn't really get into the second part of the question because I really wanted you to share yours, which is like, what was that line in the sand that you drew? You know what I mean? And I do remember that story. I don't want to tell it for you, but it's like when you were going to school and you realized kind of like how the system was flawed.
So I think for me, I've always been creative. Obviously you guys can stand for that. I'm the guy that like, under every Instagram post, I'm the one with the top comment, right? Like the most likes, the wildest comments I come from, because I'm pretty creative when it comes to these things. But for me, I don't think it was a specific moment. There was obviously a lot of moments, but whenever I was like, as a kid, whenever I walked into a business, whether it would be like a restaurant, whether it be like a grocery store, whatever it was, I would try to see like, how can I optimize this? Like, why are the tiles this way? Why are they black and white? I mean, would it be better if it was rainbow? Or like, why, like the waiter, why does she have such like a bitchy face? like these things, I would think to myself, like, she should be trained properly. Like I wouldn't want to invest in this restaurant. Okay. Same thing with like these grocery stores, these outlets, all these different things, right? Like I would always think like that. That was the biggest thing, right? But the second thing is that like, as a specific like scenario, I would actually sell car removals, like car scratch removal. So like I literally got toothpaste. I put food coloring in it, and you guys probably don't know this, but if you take toothpaste and you put it on your car, like a scratch, it actually removes scratches. So I didn't want to tell people I was putting toothpaste on their cars, right? So what I did was I just put like red coloring in it, and it would change the color of it. And now these people would be like, "Oh wow, this
secret sauce,
right?" And I would go up to these cars, $5 to remove like most of like the minor scratches around like the door handles where everyone like reach in and like scratch the car up. People would pay me $5-10, and that's how I made my money in the beginning. But it's similar to you guys. Like I would sell the like literally your strategy of like selling the little erasers. I would do that too. I didn't do it for long, but definitely did a little bit of that. But
you know why he didn't do it for long? Because at 11 years old, he started working in our company in digital marketing agency. You want to talk a little bit about what your roles were and like at 11 years old, guys. And like, this is not some like, oh, just, hey, can you pick this up and do, no. This is tech. This is computers. And this guy's brain was like next level. The way he was able to put together like the different funnels and the different colors from different NBA teams.
So like what I used to do was I created funnels for our clients, like our marketing clients, right? And one of my strategies was like, I would create a funnel and I'd be like, okay, how do I make this different and make this unique to someone, right? And I would think, and I was a huge like sports fan back in the day. And I saw this study where there would be scientists and like people like researching what are the best colorways, right? So like the Miami Dolphins, why is it like golden? Why is it baby blue? Why is it orange? Right? And I would be like, okay, I mean, I'm not going to go out and prove the system. Again, I'm just going to go and see like, hey, I'm going to grab the color codes from this specific team, apply to this funnel, send it back to the client. And the client would be like, wow, dude, this is amazing. This is so beautiful, right? Like the colors they just flow. And I would be like, yeah, they flow, right? Because I literally just took it from a freaking football team. But yeah, that was my like little method that I used to do. But all the funnels, all the logos, websites, I used to do on the back end after they would sell the client.
Yeah, he was coding stuff. But at 11 years old, for our clients, this was our client success department back in the day, and it was crushing. Like we had clients upselling; they just wanted to work with us even more, just like he said. But yeah, it's pretty wild journey.
Yeah, we all started when we were young, but him getting it at 11 years old, I was 17, you were 18, he was 11 when we first started.
Yeah.
And he picked it up a lot faster than we did, which is amazing. I think he's got a really long trajectory.
He's only 20 years old. He runs our whole sales team. All the numbers that you guys see is this guy. Yep. Like he runs the whole sales team, so.
But the biggest thing is that like, I wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't for the people that were around me. That's the biggest thing. Like I was playing Fortnite and Zarar and Christian were like, dude, what are you doing with your life? Yeah. Like seriously. And I was like, okay, I need to think differently. And I started following them and I was like, okay, I like the fact that I can buy nice things if I go out of this path. I like the fact that I can, be my own boss. I can have a nice car, all these different things, especially as an 11-year-old, that was so attractive to me. I was like, okay, I'm going to trust the process. Just listen to everything that they say, not ask questions and just go, right? And I just dropped everything else that I had and like all my little gaming things. I had a YouTube channel. It was somewhat successful. It was pretty good, but dropped everything. I was like, okay, let's just focus on this. And it worked out.
He was about to become professional, right? In Fortnite?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, absolutely though. He really listened. He just was like, all right, I may not agree. I may not understand. But whatever you guys are doing, and we didn't even know ourselves, right? Like every night. So here's the thing, when you don't have a clear direction, when you're not part of like a community or you're not part of people who have already been there, done that. So you start second guessing things, right? Yeah. And now you're like, I mean, I'm putting in all this work, 17, 18 hours a day. I'm not getting paid for it. Is this ever going to work? Am I ever going to make it out? All the people who kind of like around me, are they right? Should I get a job at Uber? Like, should I start driving? What should I start doing? You have all these negative thoughts that start to come into your brain, and you can either allow it to kind of like take over, your fucking all these things. Dude, I was going into this emotional, like I was gonna. You want to just like turn that off?
Yeah, can you just like pull it?
It'll turn off in like yeah, it's done.
This is life, by the way.
It is life. That's how it is, man. It's always unexpected. You never know.
Yeah.
You just have to adjust. No, I do remember, I just want to kind of piggyback off of what Muhammad was saying. I do remember being like next to him. That guy was, I remember we were working. I don't remember what things that we would be doing, like setting up onboarding process and stuff like that. And he would be like click-clacketing over there on Fortnite. And he was really good. He was really good. Truly was going to become a professional. But that's the thing, right? Is like, I think, sometimes like we have the traditional ways of doing things. And like, for example, for me, it was like the 9 to 5, the way I was raised. I think we all were kind of raised with that initially, which was like, you want to go to school, you want to learn, you want to study in the traditional way, get a job, and then go off and do that. But I think even that, just breaking the norms, I think is uncommon. I think that's kind of what you were hitting on just now.
100%. Yeah.
Because when you break the norms, it's not normal, it's not regular, and you get doubts. My family to this day sometimes don't even understand, because I come from a very traditional, very old-fashioned Mexican family. Right. And like I said, that's where my dad grew up. So imagine my grandparents, all my uncles, like they, you know what I mean? That's all where they grew up. So they don't understand this online stuff. And so it wasn't normal And I got a lot of backlash when I dropped out of school. Like that was because, I was very good with school. I had a lot of great grades and I went to a pretty decent school. I had, gone into like 9 of the 13 universities I applied to.
On the dean's list?
On the dean's list my first year. And to them, like, it was just like, what do you mean you're dropping out to start a business?
And then for you, the most important thing was like you were the first generation person in your family, right?
Yeah.
So they're like all looking up to you and they're just like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, that's really how it kind of happened to them in their eyes, right? Because again, it just like all these stepping stones of like going from high school, doing pretty well. At first I didn't really care my first 2 years, but then I really stepped up. And then the final year, like I said, it looked really good on a resume. It looks really good. And then I was just like, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna. I still remember the day that I told my mom in the kitchen at her house. Oh man, it was like. So this is the thing, right? It's like we had already been doing the preparation, because what we're not saying here is like drop out of school immediately. You have to have a plan. You have to have like understand what it is that you want to do. And that's what we did. While we were in school the entire year, we had been studying what digital marketing is, what is an agency, how does it work? And we can probably get into the story of how we even stepped into that with our old coach. So I had that for me already. But the thing is that for everybody else, they had no idea, because I was just kind of like doing it, right? And silently. I wasn't one to really expose things or like really like show people, like, showcase what I'm doing. And so I remember I walked up to my mom and she was washing dishes. It was late at night. And I just like turned the corner. I leaned on the wall and I was like, I don't think I'm going to go back to school next year. And she laughed and she was washing dishes. And then I didn't say anything. And she looked over at me and she saw my face and she's like, oh, you're serious? And I was like, yeah, I'm serious. I don't think I'm going to go back. And she stopped what she was doing. She turned to me and we just had this conversation that was very confrontational of like, why not? Right? Because again, I had these steps that were looking really good when it came to school. And all of a sudden I was willing to just kind of like you said, it was just kind of like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm good off of that. And so then we went into that and, the conversation didn't end very like positively. There's a lot of tension because again, she didn't agree with it. And she didn't speak to me for about a week, I think it was.
How did she reach out to you?
And the way that we broke that silence was she sent me an email that I still have to this day, because I read it
Let's
constantly.
put it up on the thing. We'll send you the.
We can definitely share the email. But yeah, that was the way that she kind of broke that silence, because we didn't talk to each other. I mean, I would be on the couch and she would walk past me, not even look at me. And I get it because we've had this conversation. I think we talked about this too. I think you asked her when we went out to dinner when she flew out to see us too, in our new home where we were living. And she kind of said the main thing for her was just like the traditional ways of doing it, right? Because she's so used to that, and she wanted me. It was good intentions. That's the thing. It was good intentions. It was just very difficult for her to kind of take that on, because of course, like, it is a big risk, right? What she saw, transitioning and pivoting, but ultimately I was for a greater good, and here I am, and I think she's a lot happier.
I think she's
she definitely appreciates and she respects it, and I think the outcome has been really beautiful. Thankful to all of our hard work. It's not just me; it's all of us that did it. But yeah, I think that was pretty difficult. Yeah,
100%, and especially like in our culture too, right? So like our story. I was going to college, right? I was going to San Jose State University, and I started to like really be curious about this education thing, right? So I started to talk to my professors. I was the one kid who would go into talk to my professors, like, they had like their office hours. Exactly. Yeah. So I would go in and I'd be like, okay, so, I'd love to know, how many businesses do you have? How many millions of dollars have you made? Because you're teaching me business, right? And they're like, oh no, I haven't had a business. And I'm like, you don't have a business? And then I was like, oh, you probably sold it, right? And they're like, no, I've never had one. And then I was like, well, how are you? I didn't say this because, I didn't want to be disrespectful to them. But in my heart, I'm thinking, how can you teach me how to swim if you've never even been in the pool? Make that make sense. So that like really was a big light bulb moment. Another light bulb moment that I had was when I was literally like interviewing the students there, like in the business class, right? So I'm talking to them. I'm like, so what do you feel like your life would look like, as soon as you graduate? Or like, what are you learning? Is this beneficial? They're all thinking to themselves, yeah, they're going to have a 6-figure job. They're going to have like a nice Mercedes-Benz parked outside. And then in their free time, all they're doing is partying. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, the world is not like that. It's not that easy. It's not that simple that you're making it out. And now I'm just like sitting to myself. It's kind of like trippy mentally. It's like I'm in a box, basically. I'm in this classroom filled with people who have no clue what the real life is. They have no idea. All they do is party. All they do is girlfriends and, boyfriends and all that. And then the people who are teaching us They've never even been there or done that. How can you teach me about business if you haven't even made a single dollar in your life in a business? You've been someone who's just been working under a university as an employee. How can you teach me leadership? Like, these are questions, man, that are true, real questions no one had an answer to. And I think that's kind of sad if you think about it. How many people are fooled? You know, they talk about online courses or online education as a scam. It's like, oh my God. That if that's not the biggest scam, tell me what it is. Right? But we've been conditioned because it's the government, it's like the approval, the seal of approval that we are forced to believe, and we all fall for it. Right? A big part of the people that we actually look up to are the people who have taken the path by themselves. Yet, for some reason, we all want to feel like we want to fit in. It makes no sense. We want to all fit in, but we admire the people who don't fit in, who are on their own journey. So these things kind of like put me in a place where I'm like, whoa, this is like really, really trippy. So I would go to my dad. My dad, very smart guy. He understood everything. It was still very hard for him to believe, like, you know, like if I told him like I want to leave college. And again, very similar to yours thing. I can't just come in and just kind of like, it's not like a light switch where it's like, I'm done. No, it was like more of like a stovetop where I'm like slowly turning off the heat, you know, because like, you know, these are parents again, right? They've been taught to believe from society, from their culture, especially in our culture, you know, if you don't have all A's, you're an outcast. You're the black sheep of the family, right? But luckily, my dad and mom both understood this. It took a few months of convincing. I mean, close to a year probably, but they got it, right? But yeah, after that was kind of like the decision that I was like, we can't do this, man. We just can't do this with our life. And another thing, real quick, a lot of the people that are the people who have degrees, I think like 80% of them, 70% of them don't even work in that field.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm just going to waste my 4 to 6 years of my life here. Like, come on, man. You know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think Mohammed has a really good story too. I mean, we're talking about dropping out of college. Let's talk about that.
He took it to the next level, guys. We dropped out of college. He was like, screw all that.
Yeah, I actually dropped out of high school. Funny enough, but I think my pivotal or my moment for this was, again, I go back to school because I think that was like a hellhole for me. Not about like the people in it, but like the way everyone was reacting to studying. So what I mean by that is like whatever the teacher would say, everyone would do. And I'm just sitting there. I was kind of like the black sheep there in front of like all these sheep. And they're just like, okay, go do this. Okay, you can use the bathroom at this time. Okay, you can't use the bathroom at this time. You have to hold it in. Weird, right? And you can only eat at this time. Oh, you didn't do your homework, so you're not gonna be able to go out and play basketball. Like,
do you want to share real quick? I know it's a little off topic, but there was a friend of yours who had something smashed on his head.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that. So again, this is not in America. Okay, so this is in Pakistan. I was in high school because we moved there for the business. But I was in high school and we were sitting down in detention one day. And this kid is like eating food, like literally in detention, all the way in the front row. And I think this guy, I'm not going to name drop him, but his dad owned the whole school. Okay, he comes in, he sees him eating, and he was like smirking and laughing. He takes one of those old school like laptops with like the floppy disk, smacks him right in the face. And the floppy disk comes flying out. It like literally flies out on the other side of the room. And I'm just trying my best not to laugh. Everyone around me was trying their best not to laugh as well. But it was insane. Like these people actually operate like this just for like eating food and like laughing. I mean, I get it, but not at the same time. Like, why are you going to smack someone across their face?
With
right?
a
like,
laptop.
And the floppy disk comes like flying out. And I was like, okay, if I don't compose myself, I'm going to start laughing as well. And I'm going to be screwed. Right. But yeah, I think that was my key pivotal moment where like everyone was like, okay, follow this specific thing. Like, I feel like I was led to a trap. I was being led to a trap. And it was my decision to be able to be like, hey, you know, this is not for me. I'm going to go the other way and be that one person that, you know, everyone else looks up to. That wasn't the end goal, but it was like, how can I go away from this and not be like sheep, basically? That was my biggest moment.
Yeah, 100%.
I think the system in general is kind of flawed. I still remember like having asked to use the bathroom. What do you mean? I gotta go. Well, I guess like, you know, maybe asking or like letting you know I'm gonna go to the bathroom, because of course the teacher has to like, you know, control the room, make sure it's not chaos. But still, like the idea of
concept,
someone telling me I can't, all right, let's calm it down. I remember having a conversation with my mom back in high school, and I was like, Mom, because that's when it really clicked for me. Because that's typically like when you're really like developing as a human. And so for me, that was really developing where I could think on my own. And I was like, Mom, if I have to go to the bathroom and they say no to me, but I still go and I get in trouble, like what happens there? She's like, I'm gonna back you up. Don't worry. Like it really doesn't make any sense, you know? And then even in college too, like when they told me that, for me, it really pissed me off. When they told me that I had to take more English classes, like the GED stuff, didn't we just go through elementary
I already
school?
know how to speak English.
That. And then elementary school, middle school, high school, having English classes every year just to do it again in college. And I specifically took AP. They told me. It was the biggest scam. Talk about scams. They told me, if you take this AP class or classes, you won't have to take it in college because you get the credits. And then when I showed up in college, they said, no, you have to take English classes. Like, what are you talking about? And the reasoning, because back then I was studying law, and there was a mix of different things, right? Because I wanted to get into like either becoming a lawyer, a judge, or a police officer, all those things. And their reasoning was, this is the reframe that they gave me. They said, you have to take this English class because you have to know how to write your reports as a police officer, for example. And I was like, that doesn't make, all right. Because you can train someone on that. Like, here's the structure of a police report. Just write it.
You don't need 3.5 months
exactly.
of 2 hours a day.
But this is the thing though, like maybe at that time you guys were a little bit unsure, but after you like have your own business and you have multiple employees, you're like, dude, this is the easiest thing ever. Like, I can train my people to do this like immediately, right? But then you start realizing that they were forcing a different agenda on you and you didn't really know. You were a little bit unsure, but you're like iffy about it because you're too young for that.
Yeah. Exactly right. Yeah. Man, this conversation's good. We're only on question number 2, guys. Let's see what the next one is. Describe the moment in your journey that felt like a significant low and how you managed to rise from it. Oh man, how many lows can we talk about? Lows on lows on lows and lows. And I think what's important, I'm kind of getting goosebumps kind of thinking about our journey and our story. But as an entrepreneur, it could be a very lonely path if you allow it to, right? And like I think a big theme that we're talking about here is like not being with the right people, not being in the right communities. You can really feel like there's this big elephant just kind of on your chest, right? So there's a lot of key moments, but one of the moments that I'll share with you is very similar to what my brother was talking about. We were in Pakistan for the business. We actually grew our companies to 6 offices there. Like we came from America, and then the whole family relocated to Pakistan, third world country, culture shock, didn't even fully speak the language Urdu. So many changes. And the biggest thing is I was a young kid, right? Like, I don't know how you were like 12, 13?
We moved when we were 13.
13 years old. I was like, I think 20, 21 years old. So it's like, it's a big change. It's a big challenge, right? So we had our digital marketing agency, as you guys may know of our story. Then we went to the software side. We scaled our company so fast because we had the skill set of, marketing, sales. We had a digital marketing agency. It was the best thing ever. So we used that to grow multiple businesses. And in a few, I was 22, 23 years old. We had 6 offices, 120 full-time employees. Plus vendors, contract. You can it's like 250 people probably overall, but 120 full-time people, right? And because we grew so fast, there was a lot of decisions that in hindsight now that we made that we didn't know of, right? Like we're young, in some ways we were kids, and we had people like our grandpa's age working for us.
We had I think at our max, we had 15 PhDs.
Yeah, we had a whole team of PhDs, by the way. That's a whole different, we had a division in our company that was just doing AI stuff, pretty crazy stuff. But really, the lowest point of my life was we grew so fast, so big. We're doing, 8 figures a year. We were literally giving away cars. We gave away a couple cars to our mid-management. We gave away 10, 12 motorcycles to some of our employees. We had this big company celebrate. It was an amazing journey, right? But then it all came crashing down. It all blew up in our face. And I remember us being multimillionaires to literally opening up, man, this is crazy. Opening up the drawer and looking for 500 rupees, which is $2, and then closing it and reopening it just because we're like, I think I missed it. Deep down knowing for sure, 100% there's nothing in there. But that's how desperate we became. Everything left, gone.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like from there to like even, man, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
The water. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty deep. There was times where, you know, we were in a position where we couldn't afford like Nestle water, you know, like those little tubs that go inside like the water dispenser. And we're like, okay, what's the next best thing, right? So there was like this government facility like water where, again, this is Pakistan. So like they have to have like this free water for these people. And most of these people that would go there are like villagers, right? And nothing wrong with that or anything like that. But like going from 8 figures to like standing in line with people that make like $60 to $80 a month. Talk about like a change, a perspective change in life. Like you lose your whole like
Identity.
Yeah. And the thing is that it seemed really, really tough at the time, but it was like the best thing ever for us. Because a fence that goes up fast can come down faster. And we learned so many different things. But going back to that point, it's like we learned how to be diverse. Right. So like we could play both roles now. Like if we actually have to, like the way we think is so much more different.
We had no choice but to, right? And like I remember when we were in line, I remember me and you, right? We had the little bucket. It's like crazy. I was just even saying it. We can't even believe like how insane this is. But like, just like you said, right? The guy in front of us makes less than $100 a month for his whole family. The guy behind us makes less than $100 a month for his family. And here we are in the middle, have done 8 figures in the past, at nothing now, and wanting to make 100K a day.
Correction. We weren't at nothing. We were negative 850K in debt. So the guys in front of us and behind us were way richer than us. They were $850,000 richer than us.
Very true. They're almost millionaires, man, compared to us, right? So we just started, we didn't say a word. I don't know if you remember that moment. We just looked at each other. We just started bursting out laughing. Of how insane of a situation and insane, we can't afford like $3 water that we used to get delivered to our house by the Nestle, you know, like a filtered water and all that. Now we have to stand in line. And when we, like when you put the water, or like when you have the water thing, you're looking at it, you're like, yeah, there's something swimming around. There's like little particles. And you're like, all right, man, like at least we have drinking water, right? So that's what Mo's kind of alluding to is the perspective of us still being able to be grateful for drinking water because we know there's people who didn't even have that.
Yeah.
So I think in hindsight now, that was the best thing that could ever happen to us. And that water story is just one story. You can think from a perspective of like everywhere we go, card decline, you know, like, I mean, we can go really deep into like why this all happened, of like how like fast we like started losing all this money. We had people taking from us, so many different things that was kind of like happening. But like even food sometimes, right? Like we used to eat meat every day, and then now we're like, oh, we can only eat once a week. And now you're like, even chicken is like, oh, this is, you know, this tastes good.
Luxury.
It's a luxury. You know, it's like we're living in a mansion. We had like 10, 11 people.
Servants. We had
people working for us. Helpers, right? So like we had a driver, we had a guard, we had gardeners. We had like 3 gardeners because the house was so big. And then now it's just like we had to relocate, so move to a smaller.
Our rent was literally like $200 a month.
Yeah, our rent was $200 a month now, and we're like, man, there was like I don't know if it's fungus. What is it called? Like
it's like moss on your wall.
Moss on your wall. Yeah,
mold.
Yeah. There we go. It was mold on our walls. And we're like,
interesting.
How interesting. Over here, we went from $2,500 office chairs to like mold on the wall. Amazing story. Like I said, it's an amazing thing. And all we did was that we could do 2 things, right? Number 1 is cry, gripe, moan, complain of like, oh my God, the world sucks.
Victims.
And yes, to some level, I mean, you know, at night sometimes you're like, you have tears running down. You're like, what happened? You know, just like you said, identity shift. It's like you are used to being this person. Everyone around you is like, oh my God, sir, over there, like, you know, the culture is like, sir. You walk in, everyone stands up. Yeah. To now you're like invisible. Like nobody kind of cares about you anymore. It's like, oh, interesting. Right. So like that also teaches you a lot about people. Of like, it's so transactional. Not everyone, right? There's some people who stood by us 100%. They were with us, and they're being very taken care of now. But it just shows you the perspective of one side and the complete opposite and still being able to be grateful and learning still in both situations of how you can best prepare yourself so this never happens again. And what are the things that you can do in your life? And that's it. These are the cards that are dealt. God gave it to us, and we have to make the best of it.
Yeah. I think ultimately, again, like we talked about in the beginning too, is like ultimately how you perceive it and what you do with that.
Yeah.
Because it was a very, very difficult low, and I think from both sides too, because I wasn't there at that time. I had visited Pakistan. We had set up the offices together, but at the time I was still back home in California. And when everything went crashing down, I mean, so again, the rise was beautiful, right? We were doing really great. The agency was on autopilot. I had at that time trained our team to kind of solve their own stuff. So they weren't even really reaching out to me until it got to a point where it was like a problem. And then I would help and step in. So it got to a point where we could truly shift to the apps and like the software side of things. And we just grew really quickly. A lot of employees, big companies, a lot of offices. And, my thing was I was planning to go over there to see everything, right? Because it was great hearing about it, but there's nothing to go and see it. And then all of a sudden it was just kind of like a light switch. It just started going downhill. And for me, obviously hearing it from the other side of the world, what was going on over there. And then obviously for me, like same thing. I mean, obviously none of us were making money at that point. We were not, our pay got cut to zero. Matter of fact, negative, right? We had to pay back people and pay back some investors. And for me on that side of the world, it was really difficult because, we had bills. My parents they got divorced when I was young, and my mom stuck with the house and myself and my brother, and she always lived like paycheck to paycheck. She did her best. She always gave us what we needed and tried to do more, but it was always paycheck to paycheck. So the money that I was making was able to fuel obviously that and give us a better lifestyle. But obviously when that cut out, I mean, it was just everything went to shit, honestly. And so then at that point, like I had to figure something out because I wasn't making any money, and my mom was already living paycheck to paycheck, if not negative. So that same system, right? It's like you're in the negative and now you're leveraging credit. Yeah. And you're like, oh, I've got the strategy figured out, but in reality you don't.
Credit goes down,
exactly.
Utilization goes up, everything just.
And so at that time, I had to look for a job, and I started working in insurance. Eventually, I started going, because that's the thing, like you just have to figure it out. You just have to do something. You can't mope and you can't be that victim like they were talking about, because they could have easily been the victim. Yeah. In a third world country, I mean, it's gone really terribly. And for me, the timing was horrible because not only did the business go downhill and I had to humbly go get myself a job and figure it out to make some money, make ends meet. I don't usually share this very often, and I think this is probably the first time that I really do share it. But at the time, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. And it was stage 4 cancer, and the way we found out was just a terrible story, where the doctor, it was a doctor, he just didn't care for 2 years. Like they felt something in her body, and they just didn't care. He just said, "Oh, you're fine." And my mom finally went and got a second opinion, and they ended up finding out that it was cancer, and it was already stage 4. So there was nothing that we could really do. And so at that time, it was a lot of adjustments. For her health, a lot of adjustments around the house, making sure, I mean, those of you that know, like with cancer, like it decreases your immune system. Mm-hmm. So it was that, along with not making any money. So having to go work the job, and obviously that takes a big toll on your mentality, right? And there's a level of like having to readjust the way you look at things and the way you have to restructure. And I think it's a reset that happens there. And then for us, like it just took a lot of time. And this is the thing too, is like when we talk about community or being around good people, for us, we had each other. Nonetheless, even though we were across the world, we still did check-ins. I still remember some of those calls that Zarar and I had where we were just very real with each other. We're like, man, here's what I'm going through. Here's what you're going through. Let's talk about it. Let's work through it. And we had each other, like that brotherhood, you know what I mean? And then obviously we had all 3 of us. And eventually we had also, their dad who was a partner with us. And we just kind of kept each other afloat. And I think that's super important for everybody, is to make sure you do have that sort of community. A lot of people try to do these things alone. They think they can do it alone. And sure, the profit margin looks pretty, but it makes it so much harder, versus where you have a team. And eventually we made that pivot where we were, able to put our heads together. We were like, we have to make this work. We need to turn this around. And we really started strategizing on how we would make that initial comeback. And we eventually did,
And the way we did it was like, okay, what do we know that we're like really good at? We realized that we have to do a service-based business. Yeah. Because we did the apps, we did the products, we did e-commerce, we had a baby e-commerce store. Yeah. Like we had so many different things going on. We even had a farm, by the way. Side story. We still have it. We still have that farm. Yeah, exactly. But really it was like, what is the best, fastest, quickest, most efficient way to spend the least amount of money, time, resources, attention, and to spend the least amount of any like inputs to get the maximum outputs. We realized the business model for that is it just has to be a service-based business, right? So then from there, we're like, all right, what kind of service-based business models are there? Well, we realized we also want to make sure that it's an online business, right? So that we have the time freedom, we have the location freedom, we have the financial freedom, so we can scale, right? There's $850K that we have to come up with. How do we do that? So in that now, so like we kind of like reposition from all the experiences that we had, like the physical businesses, the online businesses. We realized it was a service-based business and an online business. So in an online business, we realized that a digital marketing agency is just the number one. We had so many different options, right? E-commerce store, like an online e-commerce store, drop shipping store, Amazon FBA, two-row business model, Airbnb, arbitrage, so many different business models. It just came down to a digital marketing agency. And I think that is the number one business model, especially in times like these right now.
Yeah.
Especially when it's like a recession type, where it's like there's a lot of fear, right? That we're talking about the Trump administration. Like there's so many movements that are happening. Well, what happens in situations like that? We went through COVID, right? With our digital marketing agency. And quite honestly, we're a little scared. We're a little nervous. Like, are we going to go out of business? We actually 4x'd our revenue.
Yep.
Why? Because when the market constricts, they have money. The money's there, but they just need people don't trust anyone with their money. Who do they trust though? Marketers, people who can take that $1 from them and multiply that into $3, $4, $5, $6, $7. So they started lining up to us, like people like us who were good in digital marketing. So we took all that experience that we went through, and we went back into our digital marketing agency. We launched that offer, and we did it the new way, by the way. We added a lot of AI. We added a lot of even some blockchain stuff. And that's one of the things that we talk about is we are literally reinventing the digital marketing agency space right before your eyes. So the moment we launched that offer, we did $92,000 in 11 days.
Yep.
The moment we did that, we're like, all right, boys, we are back. We had no clue that we would crush that fast, by the way. But because we put our skill sets to the test, because we were in the perfect intersections of what I just explained, online business, service-based business model, a digital marketing agency, and our skills, that's how we were able to make it work. We had the team as well, right? So that is what allowed us to kind of get to that specific, to kind of like where we are. Right. Our agency is like pretty much automated. We have an amazing team. We have over 50 full-time employees, not to mention all the contractors and all the vendors that also work with us. But that is for us the model that allowed us to literally right now we're in South America on a whim, just let's just go to South America. Yeah. You came from Dubai, you came from Scottsdale. We just let's just, spend a couple weeks here. Let's just enjoy life. This penthouse that we're in is $3,000 a night. The $3,000 for us back in the day was $3 million, and it's just because of the digital marketing agency. All right. So question number 4, who has been the most influential person in your life, and how did they impact your entrepreneurial path?
I can kick us off. I think, like I said, I think both of our families come from very traditional, old-fashioned ways and cultures. So again, my family has never truly ran a business, especially at the level that we are at now. And honestly, I never tell anybody the level that we're at in our family. I think I've only told maybe my mom, a glimpse of
if
where
they
we're
watch
at.
This podcast, though, they'll all know.
And so I never really had anybody to look up to in my immediate family or even in my initial circles of what a successful business owner looks like. But I think the most influential person, I would really give it to my parents, both of them. Ultimately, man, entrepreneurship or just anything that you do in life, it just comes down to the people that influence you with the principles, right? The foundations that you're built on, because ultimately that's what it is. How you do anything is how you do everything. And that's that foundation that I was built on. My dad set that work ethic of if you're going to do something, make sure you get it done. My mom did the same thing. She'd always tell me if you tell someone something, or if you set yourself to do something, you've got to follow through, right? And I think that right there is such a beautiful thing that I was built on with those principles. Because the same, and here's the thing is the most important thing is yourself. If you tell yourself you're going to do something, if you tell yourself that you want to do something, you have to follow through. If you say that you want to get healthy and go to the gym, you've got to do it. Because the thing is, if you don't follow up for yourself, you're not going to fall for anybody. You know what I mean? That's how I think marriages fall apart. That's how I think the relationships, whether it be romantic or whether it be friendships or whether it be business relationships, they fall through because you just don't do what you set yourself to, and you don't do it to the fullest potential, right? My mom taught me to, if you're going to do something, do it all the way. My dad taught me to work hard and follow through, do it to the best of your ability.
And that's a really good point, because what happens is if you don't follow through, your level of confidence, your level of conviction, your level of who you think you are goes one step lower.
Yeah.
Every time you don't make that promise that you were supposed to, lower, lower, lower. Now, my friend, you have a very low self-esteem. Now, when you go in, your voice is, oh, can I get that? It's very like so low, and like you're not confident, versus you just knowing that you're good. You come out, you put your heart on, your sleeve, you wear your heart on your sleeve, and you just get things done, because the promises that you've made for yourself, you follow through. And no one's perfect. We all have bad days, right?
Yep.
Like we're all human beings, but it's like, can we push through to, even through some of the emotions that we have, can we still push through? And the opposite is also correct of what I just said. The more, what is it called? Say to do ratio, right?
Oh yeah.
It's like a say to do ratio, right? So if you say something, you're going to do it. The more you do it, your level of confidence, conviction, and who you are, self-worth goes up, 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 up. And what happens is, for some reason, there's something called aura, energy. People feel that. People start treating you differently. You start walking with your head high, not from a cocky place, but from a confident place, from a very healthy place, right? So, and what does that do? It attracts better people in your life. It attracts in all aspects, right? Like business partners, friendships, romantic relationships, every single thing. And typically that comes with more money, more success, more health, more everything. So you see, like all this is like a spiral. It could be an upward spiral or a downward spiral.
Yeah.
And you, my friend, are the person who decides what is it going to be for you.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to two things, right? Whether you have, it's always come down to fear and confidence, whatever it is that you do, whether you're at a 9 to 5, whether you have a career that you're trying to move up into, whether you're running a business, whatever it is, there's always fear and there's confidence involved. So if you don't follow through with yourself, again, the biggest thing that I see that people fail on is they say, I'm going to do something, and then they don't do it for themselves. And so now their confidence goes down. And what ultimately that does, it also inflicts fear. Because if you come across a hardship or something that's difficult, whether it be, again, you're trying to get a promotion, either you don't have the confidence in yourself to get that, or you're scared that you won't get it, right? And then no matter which way that you go, you don't end up going for it because you just lack that confidence and you have that fear, because ultimately you did not follow through for yourself. But if you do follow through for yourself, you just say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to wake up at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. Wake up at 7 a.m. And the more you do that, like we said, you compound that into confidence. So therefore, when fear comes around, you can bet on yourself. I think that's what people lack nowadays, is they just don't have that in them to like bet on themselves. Like, for example, when our business went to shit, we bet on ourselves. We didn't look external. We didn't look anywhere else. We said, we're going to bet on ourselves, the skills that we have, and we're just going to follow through what we do. And then that's how we turned it around for ourselves. And ultimately, I think that's what people are missing, is that confidence that then overcomes the fear.
Exactly, right. You want to add anything, or?
No, I think you guys literally hit everything I wanted to say.
Yeah. Also, you stole my answer, which is, well, you know what's crazy? All the questions here, we'd never talked about them. We had a team member prepare this for us. And what's really funny is literally the exact same answer that you gave was I was going to give the same answer. It just has to be our parents.
Yeah.
We talk about this all the time.
I actually have another, I think that both of you guys as well, it's both of you guys plus our dad is probably the most influential people in my life, because dude, I didn't know what I was doing in life. I was playing Fortnite thinking I was going to become a millionaire, just playing off of Fortnite. But like,
and you could have, but you would probably lose it all because you wouldn't have the skills.
No skills. You're literally playing off something where they could do an update in the game and you lose all your skills and you're done, right? It's so easy, or you could get canceled or whatever, right? But the skill stacking part from you guys, obviously marketing and sales, that's literally where I learned everything from, right? So it's like, I think the most influential people are actually both of you guys plus my dad. But yeah, hands down.
Yeah. Again, it's the people around us, right? Like it's the little bubble that we have for ourselves. But yeah, our parents, like we talk about this all the time. They instilled values in us. They taught us things that I feel like most people, I'm not going to say in Western cultures, because I know like across the world, it's not really common, but at least it's more common in cultures that are like more cultured, if that makes sense.
More traditional.
More traditional.
Yeah.
And like, they really, really taught us like to be aware of things, to be good human beings, to be respectful, to be, work hard. I think that's a big theme, is like work hard, get your skills. A big thing, and like, because we come from we lived in America for a long time. I was born there, by the way. Also lived in third world countries. So like we were able to take the good from every place. I remember our parents telling us like, just take the good, leave the bad. Every place has its, pros and cons. And one of the biggest pros was like our level of thinking, the way we think. It's not based on just, party, freedom, have fun. No. And that's the thing in American culture. They're miserable from Mondays through Fridays. Yep. And then TGIF, thank God it's Friday. I hate Fridays, man. Yeah. I don't know about you guys. I hate Fridays. I love Mondays. I'm like, fine, back to work. We're building something. I feel like my purpose as a man, I'm like achieving what I'm.
Yeah, because a lot of these people, they're just stuck in entertainment. Yeah. You can open up your phone, you start scrolling, you're going to get so much dopamine, right? Entertainment. Right? When you go watch a movie, entertainment, like you can find entertainment everywhere, especially in America, like literally everywhere. You clicking, like actually this is a little bit of, it is maybe controversial, but like life has gotten so easy that you can literally click a button and you go 4 stories up, like an elevator. Dude, that's insane. If you guys actually think about that, imagine what we would have to do just to be able, like even driving, right? Like that's insane. That's a form of like ease, right? Where people become less in tune, right? Yeah. They're getting a little bit more softer and softer and softer, rather than other people like 100 years ago. Did you have to walk places? Imagine how much more like tough you had to be, and that flex into your mindset as well. Not only is it like physical, but like imagine you had to go to like the store, right? And you had to walk there, and you're like, oh shoot, I forgot something, right? And you came back home. But now you have a car, you can easily go. But back in the day, dude, the consequence would have been so much more because you have to walk back and then come back. And you're like, shoot, next time I have to be a little bit more aware. I have to be more aware. And you feel that like struggle a lot more.
And I think it's just comfort, right? It just comes down to that word, which is comfort. I mean, my family, they always worked very hard, right? Again, coming from where they came from literally nothing. So that's all they knew was just work hard and you will get paid. Like my dad, when he first came here, he didn't really have very many opportunities besides construction, which is insanely difficult. It's physically demanding. The guy was insane. Like he would just be so exhausted. He would work long hours. And sure, the pay was good, but the problem is he never had time. He never had energy when he came home from my mom, and that became a problem. And when they talked about it, they rearranged kind of like what he did. And so he changed that. And so I took that, and then I changed it from like, okay, I have to work hard so I don't get comfortable, but work hard in the right ways, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Yeah. Versus like a shock or it's just like pure power of just like hard work. Now let's think about like, how can I, like the term of like a sniper, where it's like very like, targeted. And I think that's what I did. I worked really hard in collecting these skills over time. And then that's where, this successes came from. Yeah. But it ultimately comes down to like the influences that we have, which is like we're talking about our parents.
Yeah. I mean, hard work is very, very key, but it's not everything. It's not about how hard you row the boat. It's about what boat you're in, right? And again, I think a big theme, again, you'll start seeing is one thing is physical labor, hard work is important, but the other side is skill set, mental leverage, smart, like your IQ, EQ, like these are some of the skills as well. Mm-hmm. And then you take the two, you merge it, and you're unstoppable, right? Yeah. And then also what vehicle that you're in, right? Like that's what we're talking about. Online, service-based, digital marketing agency. There's nothing that exists that's better than it, in our opinion. Yeah. Right. Especially if you want to start off, right? Now, if you're a billionaire, you have all this money, then now you have a completely passive income type of thing. But if you're like kind of starting, man, there's no better vehicle.
Yeah, I think if you relate to us, right? Like again, I was 17, you were 18. We didn't have any money, to start our business. We want to have something very big, but we had $0 to our name, if not maybe a little bit negative. I mean, at the time, I think I was working, but it was like only part-time. And then I stopped when I started taking school, like, seriously, full time. But like we didn't have any money. So obviously going into a way where, okay, let's think about, because obviously if you start like a brick and mortar store, which I think is the traditional way of doing business back in the day before online was invented, people would open up, whatever it be, like a coffee shop or restaurant or whatever it may be, you have to pay rent. You have to pay the lease before you even open the doors. You got to pay the lease and the rent. You've got to get yourself an employee if you want help, because you can't run a restaurant or a business all by yourself. You've got to get the vendors. You've got to buy your products. I mean, how much are we talking about investment up front? Yeah. Versus we thought like, well, in a digital marketing agency, like that's a service-based business. We're selling a service. There's no upfront cost. And even if we are getting help from like whether it be a contractor or a team, we only pay them when they're actually doing work, and they only do work when we land a client. Right. So ultimately, it just comes down to our ability to get a client, which is, generate demand and then get their interest and then convert them into a paying client. And that's where the expenses begin, and sure, maybe like a few softwares here and there, but ultimately that was kind of our conclusion of creating the agency that we started with, you and I, and we talked to our coach about that, and his agency was doing very well. And that's how we kind of realized the potential of how an agent can be. And it's kind of like how we're talking about it now. There's going to be someone out there who's like, wow, this agency world does have a lot of opportunities for how much money you can make. That's the same thing that we thought when we did with our coach.
Exactly. And it's slightly pivoting, right? Like we have AI, we have blockchain, we have ChatGPT, like, we're doing some crazy stuff in that domain as well, but it's still an agency.
Yeah.
And I don't think the business model of an agency, I mean, some people say, oh, agency is dead. No, it's more alive
than... There's 137,000 businesses that open up every single day, right? What's one thing that they all need? Marketing, right? And what better way to do marketing than digitalized? Like, who wants to set up billboards? Like, it's so non-targeted rather than you run ads for a specific niche and that's how you crush it for your clients. It's such a...
Yeah, and like another thing, again, we can talk for hours on this of like why this is the best thing. So there's 137,000 new businesses that start every day. Okay, let's take a look a little deeper. Who are the owners of these businesses? Wealthy old people. What would they know about Facebook ads, pixels, and Google ads? They don't know nothing. Right? And then now you talk about targeting. So like, what's their alternatives? All right, do a billboard. Well, half their money is just wasted. Because like for example, if someone has a lipstick, they're trying to sell lipsticks. Well, half the money is just wasted because the men are looking at it and like the impressions that they're spending for half is just gone down the drain of whatever they spent. Versus if they're able to hyper target people, not only women in this example, women in this specific age who are most likely to make this purchase right now.
Yeah, I mean, but in 2025, the genders may be flipped. So like,
so your target audience might be a little bit
yeah. Sorry guys, it might be more people. There's more. Yeah, but you guys get the concept, right? So I think, I mean, there's nothing like it. It's slightly pivoting, it's slightly changing, and the model though, the concept never changes, and that's the best thing about it. All right. So next question is, how do you personally perceive failure? And can you share an experience where you turned a failure into a valuable lesson?
I think that question was actually revised. It looks like there's a note there.
Oh.
So I'll read it. The question is, we've all experienced failure, stress, anxiety, and even depression. Was there a time where it got so bad it made you question what you were doing? What got you through that? And what lessons did you learn from it?
Sorry, I was rereading that.
I think for me, I was so young at the time that I thought of it more of like a video game than it was an actual like problem. Because like, especially, I don't know how Christian felt because he was in San Diego at the time, but when me and Zarar were together, when we were going through like a lot of shit, we would just laugh at everything. I think that was actually our coping mechanism.
It's a coping mechanism.
That's all it was. Yeah. I don't think like we've ever been able to like be depressed fully. I don't know. It was just more of just like, oh, we just lost 30 grand here. We thought we had 20 grand here. It's gone. It's vanished. We just start laughing. Like that's just how we were, right? So like I think we were a lot more of like a video game. We thought this was just a game rather than actually like we were getting screwed over. But yeah, we've never felt sad or depressed.
I still
or sorry
feel
for
like
ourselves.
life. Yeah, never feel sad. Never feel. I mean, now look, there's sometimes the thoughts do come. Right? Mm-hmm. We're normal. We're human beings.
Yeah.
But it's your ability to just catch yourself. And I don't believe, I mean, I have this belief where everyone eventually figures it out. But the real question is, how long is it going to take you? Right? When you feel depressed, anxious, sad, all these emotions, and I'm not going to say negative emotions because at the end of the day, like, we're human beings. And Hollywood has like sold us, that's another lie, of like, oh, just be happy. No. Well, if you're just like, happiness is for like kids, right? When you're like a kid, that's happiness. But like as men now, for us, like we are on a purpose, we're on a mission. Happiness isn't definitely, it's not on the spectrum of like, and I'm not saying be sad or be like, no, we have a lot of fun together. Like we are just like, laughing all the time. Just like you said, we view life as a video game. We still do. I mean, at the end of the day, you're not going to make it out, are you? We're all going to die, right? Just like a video game. Like you have that chance of like, so why put so much energy behind something? Oh my God, it's the most, what's going to happen? It's all going to be okay. Don't worry. Like you're going to make it out. If you're watching this, you have a phone, you have a computer, you're already like in the top 1% of the world.
Yeah.
So what's the problem? Right? There is none. But it's because your world is so closed off, where you're just like surrounded by these people. But when you see the world from a perspective of there's 7 billion people, and someone else could have a life that is 10 times worse than yours, and they would do anything to have your life. This thing of just like being sad or depressed, I don't know, man. I don't.
Well, it's just a natural thing that happens in life, man. We're humans, so we're very emotional creatures, unlike some other creatures that don't have that same, like our brains are very different. But ultimately, we're gonna feel all the emotions, right? There's happiness, there's sadness, there's anger, and then people that fall into certain emotions, that's where the problem arises. And so I think ultimately it just comes down to understanding that there's gonna be swings. And on both sides, there's never going to be 100% balance. Even like when it comes to like work-life balance, right? People are like, oh, I want to be able to balance my personal life and be happy, and then also work hard and like have that balance. There's never going to be a balance, Like think about it. Like in order for us to recognize happiness, we have to feel sadness. Yeah. Otherwise, we wouldn't know what happiness is. Yeah. In order for there to be sunlight, there has to be darkness, and vice versa. In order for us to recognize these things, so we have to understand that it's just part of life. You can be an optimist or you can be a pessimist, but in reality, you got to find somewhere in the middle where you're more of like a realist, understanding that both are going to happen. Sometimes you're going to be more negative, sometimes you're going to be more positive, and ultimately that is going to benefit not only you but those around you as well. When you do that level of personal development, for example, that's why. We have never had we had disagreements, but like never had an argument,
a fight, or like, oh no, we never.
There's never been those emotions involved. You have to understand, like, okay, I don't like his like thought process on like the certain decision or whatever, but I understand, right? I can see where he's coming from, and then vice versa, he sees where I'm coming from, and then we find that middle ground, and we make a decision going forward. And it really is that simple. Now, it's not always that easy because, again, emotions, right? You can't really control that, right? It's difficult. And that's where the logic comes in.
People fight over the smallest things ever, man. Why'd you put the glass there? And like now the whole there's an argument for 4.5 hours on just the glass. So it's like
or resentment. There's resentment that comes from that too, which is so dangerous. And that's the problem, right? With like, especially, I think this happens more like romantic relationships.
That's what I was referring to. It's like, oh, the glass is there. Why'd you put the glass? Why'd you leave it? It's like, relax. It's all gonna be okay. Yeah. It's just a glass. Oh, you know what I hate? Let's talk about some romantic relationships. When like someone, when like they break, like if accidentally, one of your not one of your partners, but like if your partner breaks like a glass. They start fighting over that. Why'd you break it? It's like, it was an accident. But why was it? It was an accident. Relax. Yeah. It's a glass.
It's not that deep.
It's not that deep. It really isn't.
It's all a perspective. Like, you don't understand what that glass, if it broke, what you arguing about it, like what it could do to your actual relationship, rather than a $3 glass breaking. It's just perspective. I think life is literally just perspective. Yeah. Like you could think something, like you could think like literally that glass, is it full or is it empty? I think it's pretty full, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to look at it as full. And like what we're talking about here, guys, is like, it all relates to business as well, because like a marriage, business partnership is the same thing. It's literally the same thing. Yeah. You have 2 different or 3 different people, different walks of life, different mindsets. As you can see, one of the things, we have different personalities. We're like on the complete opposite spectrums. But we complement each other. But we complement each other. Exactly right. And we're very we have a good synchrony. We have a very good understanding of each other. And we come together. It's like we're yin to the yang, right? So I think that's really, really important. And I think, you guys can probably get a lot of value in your personal relationships as well. Because if you want to build something, you got to have a large heart. Like you truly do, because things are going to be up and down, and you got to like stay grounded. Just like Christian said, your emotions are there, but don't just like fall. Like anytime something small happens and now you just lash out, how are you going to be successful in life? You can't. You just can't,
Yeah, for sure. And I think ultimately the question was like, how do we, we all deal with stress, anxiety, right? All those things. Like, how do we handle that? I think ultimately it's just coming to terms with that's just how life is. And life is never 100% going to be happy. And I think this is a really good example, especially when we again, for us, the topic is always like, how do you, it comes down to business. So like if you go into a room full of people and you ask them, okay, who here thinks, raise your hand if you think, matter of fact, you guys, raise your hand if you think running a business is easy. And no one's going to raise their hand. Yeah. That's why business owners are so respected, because they know it's hard. It's difficult, it's stressful, there's a lot of anxiety, like whatever. And so then you ask everybody, okay, well, raise your hand if you think it's going to be hard, and you raise their hand. It's like, well, welcome to being hard. Like, welcome to, this is what hard feels like, you know, and that's just what life is. Life is just, you know, it's just the reality of it. And it's going to be difficult because it's not easy. Ultimately, like way back in the day, it was like the survival of the fittest. Obviously we've come, it's a lot different, right? We're not killing each other over who's going to kill this deer to feed their family for tonight, but it's still the same thing. It's like, we have to be able to constantly develop ourselves to be okay and come to terms with it being difficult, because ultimately that's where in order for it to be difficult, that's where ease comes from, right? Why do we go to the gym? We work out so we can eventually look good, feel good, right? But what comes from working out? Sore, you're tired, you're hungry, you're thirsty, but you can see it's just simply a byproduct, right? I want to get healthy, so I go to the gym so I can get healthy and actually look good and I can feel good. But the byproduct of that is like, I'm going to feel sore, I'm going to have a little bit of like pain. But out of that pain comes what you're looking for. And I think if you come to terms with that, life will just be a lot more simpler and a little bit more
Why are
easy.
diamonds so precious? Because they've been through so much pressure, right? Pressure builds diamonds. And right before a diamond is actually coal. You can take a piece of coal and put so much pressure on it, it turns into a diamond. Same concept, right? All right, next question. Share a personal project or passion that fuels your energy and creativity outside of work. How does it contribute to your overall success? I'll go on this one first. You wanna take it?
I think we're about to say the same thing.
All right, let's see if it's the same thing. Is it the orphans?
Okay, no,
it's not.
A different one.
All right. Okay, so guys, this is something this is the first time we're ever sharing this, and we kind of kept this like personal, like kind of like we don't want to share this for various reasons, but I think there's just so much negativity in this world where it's like, I think things like this should be shared. So I have a different perspective on it now, but for every client that we land, we are literally giving scholarships to orphans, like people who don't have a mom or a dad, to live for a whole year. So we're sponsoring their full year
education and their food and their shelter
for one whole year. And by the way, every single client that we land, we give one person this. So like every client that lands, one orphan is basically sponsored by us, right? So we just take some of the funds and just put it over there. And I think that's really important because in the beginning, when we all start for selfish reasons, honestly, in business, right? I think let's just call it out. We're not gonna pretend to be some amazing people like that. It's all for selfish reasons to some level, right? You still want to help your family, and that's still selfish because that's your family, right?
Yeah.
But over time, once you start getting the thing, okay, you got all the cars and all the we literally live with the ex-CEO of Pepsi, penthouse, all these things. So it's like, what else is there? Nothing else is left. Then you start getting to a point where you're like, I just want to help other people who are less fortunate and stuff. And I think the fuel that we get from that, it's like now at this point, we'd if something gets very, very tough, we're like, you know what? We don't really have to do it because we're good. Like we can retire tomorrow and we'll be fine. But now when we look and we're like, oh, the orphans, they didn't have a shelter. They didn't have a roof over their head. They didn't have the food. They didn't have a scholarship for the whole year that we're literally paying for all their education for. That drives us to a certain level that now we're still putting in, quite a few hours a day because we're like, those kids, when we see those pictures, when we see the videos that they send, they literally writing cards for us, right? Like little girls, little boys, and it's amazing. So that's a passion project of ours that, personally really, really drives me.
Yeah, I think this is not only a passion project for me, and Zarar can hit on this a little bit more too, but for Launch My Agency itself, we want to take 10,000 people and help them launch a digital marketing agency, exactly like what we did before, right? And again, there's a lot of people that are going through like these issues that we're talking about, like going to their 9 to 5, getting stuck in traffic. They feel this frustration every single day, and we know exactly how it feels. Especially our dad, he was a 9 to 5er for 25 years. Like he understands that. He's also one of our business partners. This is kind of like motivated from his angle too, but it's more of just like, how can we help the most amount of people? Because again, just like tapping into what Zarar said before, there's a point, anything above like 500 grand a month, 500 grand a month to like $100 million, and we're not at $100 million, but like between that, there's not that big of a swing, right? The biggest swing is from 0 to like 500 grand a month. I think for this, like it kind of, I'm not saying it demotivates us if we just take all the money ourselves and we don't we're like, okay, what is another $100,000 going to do for us, right? But if we can help another life, not only the orphans thing, but we can help someone else raise that money and become financially free, be able to launch their own business. I think that's a lot more powerful because that drives us every single day. But Zarar, if you want to share a little bit more about like the vision that we have for the 10,000 people.
Yeah. So it's like the reason why we even started Launch My Agency is because we started it for ourselves. We wish we had this when we first started. All we had was blogs, podcasts, YouTube videos, and nothing wrong with that. There's some really good ones out there. But what happened was there was a lot of confusion, right? It's like this guy says do this other guy says do this. It's the complete opposite. They're both successful. What do I do, man? Like, just what's the 10% that's going to move the 90% for me? Now you add in a job. Now you add in kids, a family, limited time, limited resources, limited money. You're like set up for failure. So I truly believe that the more knowledge, the more stuff that's out there on the internet is actually an opposite thing. Because you don't know what to do first. You don't know when to do it, how to do it, with who to do it, right? Versus we were like, okay, what is all the stuff that we know over the last 9 years, all the experiences, the negative 850K in debt, the millions and millions of dollars that, you know, we've been fortunate enough to make, the team members that we've hired, hundreds and hundreds of people, thousands of interviews we've done, the systems, the process, the SOPs, the clients that we've worked with, like Porsche, Hello Abound, Makeup Eraser, like literally hundreds of these big name clients. We take all of that experience and condense it and just package it to someone who is just wanting to start a business, who is an entrepreneur at heart. And they may think they have a business, like they may have like a website, but they don't really have a real business that is making them, you know, 20, 30, 50K a month, or even beyond that. They don't have a team. How do we give them what they need right now with the least amount of inputs that's going to give them the maximum results? That's the vision of Launch My Agency. That's why we built what this is. I mean, and that's why the success stories are there. We had a client, Monica, 86K a month she's making in 5 months. She didn't even know what a digital marketing agency was. And actually, I think about 2 weeks or maybe like a week ago, she messaged me. She's overall at $750,000.
Cash collected.
Cash collected. She's almost at $1 million. And I told her, I texted her, hey, let me know when you're at $1 million. We're going to send her something special. We're going to send her a $1 million award. And this is someone who didn't even know, number one, what an agency was.
Her first text to our team was, "What can the agency do for us?"
Yeah, let's put it up on the chat if you're watching this. We'll just, you know, kind of put it up there.
Yeah.
And number two, she's like in her 60s, man. Like if a grandma in her 60s can pull it off,
why can't you? Just ask yourself that.
It's the easiest thing in the world. It truly is. But she partnered with the right people. She partnered with us. Yeah. And like she went through course, through program. And she just came to us and said, this is my last one. Like, I'm just done with this. And we realized that, right? Like, and also ourselves, right? Christian, maybe you can hit on this a little bit. How many programs, how many courses have we bought?
A lot. Many
90% of them, just not it. There's a few that were pretty good. But it took us so many to find the right ones. And it was our fault because we just picked the wrong ones. Why? The people. We realized, like, if we want good business success, we have to partner with the right individuals. If you want to elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, I think what's important is, even most of the time what we were purchasing were courses, right? Which is information. But what's different here, and what we understand about the people that are looking to start and launch an online business, specifically an agency, is it's not just about getting the knowledge, because the knowledge is out there, you know, like, and you can get it on YouTube and Google. But what's different is we give you like very specific, specialized knowledge. We don't have a course that just drowns you in videos. It's very specific of like, what do you need to do right now to take that step forward, right? Because we're past the learning phase. There's plenty of information out there, you know? And I think the biggest thing too is like bringing that sense of like camaraderie, of that support, which is what we were missing back in the day. You know, again, we had the information and we had, you know, the knowledge of what to do, but we didn't know how to do it. And so, for example, for us, when we first started, we took 4 months to like figure out what our name was, and ultimately it just came out to four what do you call it? Not abbreviation.
Like the first letters of
first
our
letter
name.
of our names, and we just
That's
put it
the best
together.
we could do.
In
Took us 4 months.
Yeah.
I wish we had someone who would just be like, stop that. That's for you. Nobody cares about your name of your company. Focus on the things that matter. But we didn't have this. So we took the arrows in the back for you, right? Like And I can go on and on all the different pieces and all these things. I'm sure you get the concept. And what I'd like to do from here is open an invite for you to be able to book in a call with us. If you feel like you kind of resonate with this, if you want to partner with us a little bit on a deeper level, go ahead and book your call down below with someone from my team. There's going to be a little link there, and see if this resonates with you. See if this is what you want to do. If it is, cool. If not, no worries either way. And you can just get a lot of value from this free content that we're doing here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'm the only one that hasn't answered yet. So, so I think what we're talking about, I think what you guys two shared is like what we're doing right now and what we're looking to do in kind of like the short term. I think long term, kind of based on what we're building with launching my agency and the other business that we have, is we want to be able to like bring people together that are like-minded and essentially kind of building the sense of communities. And for me, because I've been pushing this because it's a long-term strategy, is eventually getting into real estate and being able to, again, like real estate on a very simple level is like purchase and selling of like properties and land. But for us, it's bigger than that, right? Again, very similar to like launching my agency, is we're being able to accelerate people's opportunities to grow through a sense of like our team, our support. And so same thing when it comes to real estate, the way we're looking at it is not just purchasing buildings and land. It's about purchasing communities, building communities where, because I mean, think like for us, when we live in Scottsdale, the biggest thing for us was like the people that we were around, and also like being in that building, like what we felt. Right, you feel luxury. You feel that the people that are the staff actually care about you. I mean, I remember whenever anything would happen in my apartment, I would just like message, and the same day they would call me and come over. Like, is it okay if I come over right now and fix
in like
it?
20 minutes.
Exactly.
You could break the wall. You could like scratch everything up. No problem. It's completely taken care of.
It's taken care of, and that's ultimately what people are looking for.
Yeah.
And more than ever now, especially because I'm looking for a new apartment building. I'm seeing that that's kind of lacking. And I think ultimately that's the biggest thing, because people are just very transactional with the way they do business, not just like with companies or courses, but then also, again, real estate as well, like finding a place to live. It's very transactional. It's like, here's your keys, here's your apartment, adios, but we want to be able to bring that sense of like you're being taken care of. You've got people that are here for you that can get you taken care of, and build that sense of community through real estate. And again, it comes with apartment buildings. And again, this is the long-term strategy, but I think ultimately that's the impact, right? Because before, when we first started our business, there was only so much that each of us could do. There's only so many people that we can talk to in a day, phone calls, meetings, how many ads we can run. And so that's why when you're building a business, if you truly want to have big impact, you have to build a team. And that's what we've done. Because now, for example, if I can only talk to 8 clients a day on the phone and like support them and guide them, well, now if I have a team, I can lead through them and impact more people. So like if I've got like 4, we call them agency advisors, each of them can speak to 8 people a day, for example. Now my impact is much bigger. And so that's ultimately what we're looking for, is how do we get from like 10,000 people that we can help them build and launch an agency, to now eventually communities of properties and buildings that we can build out. I think that's the long term.
We're building leaders right now in our company, right? And just like you said, we coach them up, we train them into how we think, into the strategies, into the structure, and they're able to convey some of these things to our clients. And that's why clients are crushing. One of our clients is doing $400K a month. We have so many clients doing like 5K, 10K, 20, 30, 50K a month. It's like we lost track.
We'll pop up some wins.
Yeah, well, like every day we have a wins channel. It's just like pop, 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 pop. Like just there's so many.
Yeah, for the last like 2 weeks, we'll pop up some wins in the
that'll be cool.
screen.
Yeah, awesome. All right, let's see what the next question is. Can you share a moment when you felt immense gratitude for your journey and the people who have been part of it?
I think it's a great question. I think I've had quite a few of those, and sometimes, I mean, I'm a type of person that likes to live in the moment. So whenever, like, for example, we go out to dinner, or whenever I'm out with friends, family, whatever it may be, I usually set my phone down or I put it in my pocket and I don't touch it, because I like to live in the moment. And so sometimes I miss the documentation of moments. Like I don't take very many videos and pictures, and I think I should do that more. But I know one of them, for example, is the very first time that I was able to like fully cover a trip for my mom and my brother, when I got them to come out to Scottsdale. I mean, we're talking about like the flights were covered. I got to get them a really nice Airbnb that they stayed at. All the food was covered, and that was just an amazing thing for myself, especially as a man, because for myself, I'm a little bit more traditional. I like to be the provider. And I think we all are aligned in that. And so for me, that was such a beautiful thing, because my mom, again, when my parents separated, she had to take the reins in some ways. Obviously, she was stuck, with the mortgage, and she had the 2 kids. My dad was supportive and like helped out, but ultimately she was doing a lot. And so for me to be able to take that off of her shoulders and be able to be that provider that was a very beautiful moment that I had, and that was the very first time. Now, obviously, we're doing a lot more for her birthday this year. We're looking at either doing an all-inclusive resort or all-inclusive cruise.
Wow.
And I'm going to look at covering the entire expense. Well, not the expense, but like covering everything. And I think that's going to be a beautiful thing.
That's amazing too. I didn't even know that. I think for us, man, I don't know what you think, but it's moving our parents to Dubai.
Yeah.
And like, taking care of the full rent, car, everything. Like, I think our mom worked so hard to raise us, right? In order to like, give us, and a lot of our, not a lot, most of our success is because of them. So why wouldn't we give back? And I absolutely hate, and I choose to use that word hate, of how some people treat their parents in like, especially in Western cultures, where it's like, oh, they're at an old home, old house. What do you mean by that? They're just left to rot. Like they're just left to die there by themselves. And these people, some of these people are very successful. Like they're making good money and they just don't give a shit about their parents. And for me, that was like, whoa, okay, that's kind of messed up. They change your diapers, man. Like, well, what's wrong with you? So I don't know. I think maybe just like you said, maybe we're too traditional, but I want to make sure that my parents, they're all taken care of. And we sponsored their full. They're still out there in Dubai. And my sister just sent me a voice clip earlier. She was like, yeah, I'm shopping. I'm like, great. Keep shopping, have fun, and live the life of your dreams. That's
I actually have two things to piggyback off of that. I think you stole one of mine before. Like I was gonna mention that, but the first thing is like I've seen our team members develop. Not only they went from boys to actually men, because again, most of my team, they're in their teens, right? They're like 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. And then like you can even see some of the recordings that we've had for our past meetings. And we were literally talking about this last night.
Yesterday,
yeah, like they looked and they talked very different than where they are right now, right? Like actually one of my members, his name is Maz, if you guys have seen him before.
Yeah.
But basically his mom literally told him that, hey, when you started working with Mo and his team before, like you would walk with like a little like hunchback like this, right? And then after that, when you start working with him, like 6-7 months down the line, you're like walking with your chest up, and not like within like a egotistical way or anything like that. He's just confident in who he is and like what he is as a person, right? That's my first thing, right? But my second thing is that I'm really like grateful that my wife doesn't have to work for another person, right? Like I think that's a big thing where I've always wanted that, and I've been able to achieve that, where she's actually like she if she wants to work for like our business, she can. Obviously that's for us, but she doesn't have to go out and like do a traditional 9 to 5 or anything like that. It's just a big thing that I'm really grateful for, and I plan to keep that for the rest of my life.
Amazing. Yeah. I think a big theme you're also probably getting, because I'm actually also learning from these conversations. We're all talking about family. People that are around us. And I think that's very, very key to stick together. And that's another thing that we've been lied to, of like, oh, you get your own house, you get your own mortgage, you get your own thing, you get your own bills. And then inside of the family, even like the wife has her own stuff, the husband has it. And then here's how the fighting happens, right?
Yeah.
Like this is how they break families.
50% of marriages end up in divorces solely because of financial issues. All divorces, like 50% of divorces are because of financial issues.
It was 50%. No, so I think the math is like 50% of all marriages end up in divorce.
Yes.
80% of them, I believe.
No, it's 50%.
Oh, 50%.
Of divorces are because of financial issues.
Okay.
So it's like 50-50. Yeah.
That's pretty, that's pretty serious, man. Like if you ask me, right? And like no one thinks about this stuff.
Yeah.
Why? Like as an entrepreneur, you have to be very curious. You just have to. Curiousness is very, very important. And the whole purpose, the whole objective of like society and like all this is to keep you dumb and to keep you stupid. So you just keep paying your bills. You just like continuously in this like rat race. And just like you said, you develop resentment. And then what's going to happen? On your deathbed, you're going to be like, I wish I did this. Do you want to live like that? Do you? No. The alternative is spend a couple years. And nowadays, not even a couple years. Like we have clients making $10K a month in like 2 months, 3 months, like from zero, so.
And our dad, I remember we were in the garage. This was a Saturday because he used to make us work and like code on Saturdays. So it was just a thing for us.
You were picking weeds, we were coding. It was the same concepts.
He told me we're in the garage and he was like, dude, listen, I was like 6 or 7 at the time. He was like, look, cry now and enjoy later. Or like enjoy now and cry for the rest of your life.
My mom used to, I remember our mom used to always say that too.
They used to always say this like same line, and they would mess it up every now and then because English is not their first language.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what?
The funniest
My
thing.
mom, do you remember those stories she used to tell us about the ants and the grasshoppers?
Yeah.
Do you guys know what's the is it like a Disney movie or something?
I don't know what it was, but basically
Yeah.
there would be ants that would collect like food during the summer, right? They would collect food during the summer, and the grasshopper would make fun of them and be like, "Oh, you should enjoy it. Summer. Like I'm enjoying, I'm not collecting or anything like that. I'm just chilling, right?" And then in winter, when there was no food, the grasshopper like would be super like screwed up because he didn't have food. But the ants were chilling because they had food that they stored up in summer. So it's literally the same example.
I heard the story like so many times when I was like 5 years old, 4 years old, up until probably I was like 8 or 9, right? But yeah, guys, this is the stuff, right? It's all the same concepts that it requires you to be successful with. All right, let's see what the next question is. So the next question is, what do you hope your personal legacy will be through your work? How do you want to be remembered by future generations? That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, first of all, when it comes to like direct family, I want to set up a trust fund for them, obviously. Like build up the most amount of wealth that I can, maybe invest into like the S&P 500, put some like mix up my portfolio, so like 30% real estate, maybe a little bit of crypto. But the idea is that I want my kids and their kids to be able to like leverage that money, not to just spend it and like blow it, but like be able to leverage that and keep increasing like the portfolio of our whole entire family. I think that's like the end goal. But the way I want to be like remembered is not only through like me as a person, but like all of us, especially our dad, that we were like the ones that revolutionized like and changed our bloodline. Like that's the biggest thing, where we all came together and we're like, okay, the way we're going right now, it's not bad. Obviously, we can go and get 9 to 5s and all that, but we're not going to be happy with ourselves because we feel like we deserve a lot more, right? So it's like I don't want to be remembered as, oh, it's just Mo. But it was like all of us together, we revolutionized, we came together and we're like, okay, this is the vision. Because the thing is that if it was just me, then there's gonna be kids down there like in my generation where they're gonna be like, wow, okay, I can just go out and do this myself. Rather than imagine if all the grandkids came together and then they built it and now they have a lot of money to leverage with the trust fund. I think that's my like vision of my legacy.
And you know what's interesting is we actually have personal experience in some of these things, or we were like pretty close to, like, we've heard some things, right? So for example, my grandma from my dad's side, her dad was one of the wealthiest men in Pakistan. This guy he had like drilling machines, and he had like a fleet of trucks, and this is like back in like, was it
1920s to
maybe,
like the 40s?
No, it was a little bit late. Yeah, 40s, 50s, I think, or 60s. Like he was hanging around with like, the prime ministers and stuff like that. Super, super rich person, right? But what happened was, no one's perfect, right? So I'm sure he tried his best, but like the family kind of broke apart. The kids, right? They were literally smoking 5,000 rupee bills as like cigarettes. Yeah. Just like to show off. And 5,000 rupees back then, I don't know how much it was. It was a lot of money, right? It's kind of like taking $100 bills and just like, yeah, I'm rich, and just blowing it all. Some of them died in like the smallest little cubicles, like, slums of Pakistan. And they had so much land, so much property, so much stuff, but it just didn't, it didn't work out. And, we could have gotten it, right? We could have gotten it, but we didn't. So we realized we that lesson was taught from our dad to us of like, one thing is you can be successful, but can you build a legacy underneath you, and can they take it to the next level?
Exactly.
Right? In my opinion, the true success rate is not someone, if my kid, for example, if he's born a millionaire, okay, cool. But can he become a billionaire, or can he take it to the next level? That's the true success rate, because you can't really control where you're born into, right? If you're born in poverty, then maybe making 6 figures a year is also like, oh my God. Yeah. Right? I mean, like, let's give an example actually of our granddad. So our granddad from the village, man, this guy,
other side.
He used to study underneath like little candle lights, right? He came out to be a captain of a 747 jumbo jet. And this is in the 70s. Back then, it was kind of like beyond a neurosurgeon level, right?
Yeah.
The status, the respect level, being a captain from a third world country, from Pakistan, it was a huge thing, man. He actually is the first person who took the PIA flight, which is the Pakistan International Airlines flight, from Pakistan to Hong Kong. So he was the first captain, like first person to pull that off. And that was his success, right? So then my dad's success, though, he has to take it to the next level. So he came to America. And like his story is pretty wild too, like literally surviving on chocolate bars, you know, went from that to working like minimum wage jobs to becoming a corporate employee, making about 200 and, you know, I think his highest was like 200 and something $1,000 a year. As a corporate employee, which is really good, man. Right. And this is like, you know, this is back in like 2014, 2015. So 200K, I mean, inflation and all that, that's pretty good, right? For someone who came from nothing. Now we're like, we have to take it to the next level. That's our success. And then now the kids have even more of a burden where they're like, they're going to have to take it even more further. So yeah, I think that would be our legacy, man. I think we're similar in that aspect.
Yeah. I think we're all three of us are pretty similar because ultimately I think, so the way, I think this is a really deep answer for all of us. I think even right now as we're kind of explaining, we can go hours and hours of what this looks like. But for myself, I think we talk about family members and kind of what we're building on top of, right? So again, like my family on my dad's side, they came to this country to give the opportunity for something to be built here. And so for me being the first generation, I was building something in one route and I decided to go in a different route, but ultimately it's still the same thing. I'm trying to build something big and monumental. And I think ultimately I want to be remembered as the man of the family that was principled. And I think you took the word that I was going to use was revolutionized, like set the tone and changed what was possible. Because up until this point, like none of my family members have really studied too much. They never went to college. They went to university. No one's ever really built a business properly. And so it's that like setting the tone, essentially, resetting the foundation of what is being built here. And so hopefully what comes next is, like you guys are saying, everybody's got to one up each other, right? And so that's what I'm trying to set here is that I was the one that took the risk, the biggest risk on top of what my family had already done. So I'm building on that and being principled. And I think, for example, my mom's grandpa, which is like my great grandpa, he was known in Mexico as like, or in the city that they're from, as like he was like the businessman, right? He was known as a guy who kind of like set the tone. He was different. He was very well respected in the communities because he made a lot of money doing essentially real estate at the time. And so he had like, this is again, back in the day where people didn't really have washers and dryers because they couldn't afford it, especially in Mexico. He was the guy that had it. He was known as the one with the washer and dryer. He was known with the nice truck. And so he was known to have that and he was then the one that was able to help others. Right. I think, the saying goes is like, you can't pour from an empty cup. Right. And so he was able to fill his cup and then pour into others. And I want people to be able to recognize and see that as my legacy. Another thing too is, like my dad worked very hard in what he knew to be able to set that platform for me. And another thing too was he was kind of he was the piece that brought the family together. The glue. When my parents were together, there was constantly like family functions and there was, everybody was coming together, whether it be at our house or we would set, like dates to like go to the beach and like the family would gather. And I mean, big family gatherings. And when they divorced, I realized that it all just kind of dissolved. And so he was kind of that glue. And so I want to be able to do both. I want to be able to fill my cup to set the foundation of what it should look like and bring everybody together, bring, you know what I mean? So I think that in essence is kind of what I want the legacy to look like. But ultimately it's very similar to what we're talking about here too. We're just kind of seeing like what's been built in the past and building on that and being known as the next revolutionary. And then hopefully, our kids or their kids can then build on top of that and so forth. Because this is how family legacies and family wealth is built.
Exactly. And we have to build them up, right? I think we've seen this firsthand. Brothers, parents, kids fighting each other and like, I mean, I have a friend, I'm not going to name his name. His mom sued him in America. It's like, what is that, man? Like you don't want your kid to be successful, right? Yeah. So it's like, I've seen this a lot with brothers as well. We have firsthand experience there. Brothers fighting each other, trying to one up each other in a negative way. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Instead, for me, it's like I actually told my brother this, Mo. I was like, dude, you need to take this you need to take this to a level beyond where I took it. Yeah. That's your success. I'm not going to be like, no, I'm the older brother. I deserve, like, my ego is so big. No, my success is, I think one of the things he said himself, he looks up to us. So it's like, take the things and just take it to the next level.
Yeah.
That's my success. Like, I would be successful if he can to do that, right? Versus fighting, like, or like trying to like, put these blockers in front of him so he can't be successful. I mean, come on, man. Like, at the end of the day, like, business partnerships or anything in general is 1 + 1 = 11. And you know, that's the way I like to view it. Some people have this weird internal childhood trauma that they have to deal with, and they want to block other people, you know?
Yeah, I think building together is also another thing that we're doing too. I consider myself part of the family. I think I consider them part of my family as well. We used to live together. Actually, we switched. He used to live with my family, and then I used to live with their family, and we got really well accustomed. And I think ultimately that's kind of what we're doing here. And again, the biggest thing is always building together, because what I can do alone, or what each of you can do alone, is
it's so limited. It's so limited if we're just by ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of potential there.
Yeah.
But being able to like really emphasize and build it and like really scale it out, all three of us coming together.
And we're all three different, which is an amazing thing, by the way, right? It's like we complement each other. And just like you said, man, try to do it yourself. Yeah, you want your profit margin high? Okay, cool. You can take out of a $15,000 a month pot, or you can choose to take it out of a $4 million a month pot.
Yeah, I'd rather take a big bite out of a watermelon than eat the whole grape.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Yeah. All right, next question is, what is the most valuable life lesson you learned on your entrepreneurial, I can't say the word, on your entrepreneurial journey that you would offer to young entrepreneurs?
Ooh, man, that's interesting. Huh?
Skill stacking.
Man, that's a
it's
deep
like
question.
So many different things.
I think actually, let me answer that one.
Yeah.
That there are multiple keys to the lock. It's not going to be one. You can't look for one.
Yeah.
However, like, if you try to like, let's analyze this a little logically. Number one most important thing is you need to be aware of what's happening in the world.
Like your mindset.
Your mindset.
Yeah.
100%. Forget the skill set to the side. Who you are as a person is all about being congruent. Why do we work so hard? Why do we think like this? Is because we ask these questions of like, we're highly aware.
Yeah.
You know, being humble is very, very key. Always. Confidence is different than like, you can still be humble and confident. And I think you should, right? If you're good, like, absolutely you should be confident, but being humble as well, learning from every single situation. And right now you may be thinking, oh, I don't have the right people in my, like in my life. Do what Mo suggested. You watch YouTube videos, but I'll go a step further. All the people around you that you're like, I don't want to be like, that's also a learning lesson. Yep. Like Abraham Lincoln said, I'm learning from everyone. 99% of the time, it's what not to do. Right? So all the people you're like, oh, this person's an idiot, just because like, they're just like, what's wrong with this person? That's a learning lesson. Don't do that. Right?
Exactly.
Don't do that, which will get you closer to being successful. Right? So like, knowing that there's multiple keys to the lock, mindset's the most important of how you view the world. And from there, once you're like, all right, I'm like, my mindset is at a point where I can now start adding skills, which is like, specific skill sets. You add those things in together, unstoppable.
I totally agree. Literally my answer.
I think that right there is a really great roadmap that he just gave, because it ultimately starts with you. And I think like, especially when you're young, like the biggest thing is you have to be able to think more. It's really for everybody. It's the same thing that we tell our team members as well, because in order for them to develop and become better individuals for not just the company, but for themselves, you just have to think. We get so stuck in like the doing, right? And I can't remember who says this, but it's like, you're not a human doer, you're a human being. And so you have to be able to be present, you have to think, you have to feel. And I think some people are scared to think. And I get it, like the future is unknown, right? But you have to be able to think and plan for things, because that's how kind of how we adjusted and how we pivoted, because we thought about it and we were like, we could have just followed, right? It's like, kind of like what Mo said, was like sheep. Just like, okay, they're telling me to go to school, they're telling me to drive 45 minutes in traffic to get to class, and here's all my class schedule, and then afterwards I got to study. Like, they're giving you this, and so you can do, but if you're not thinking, you don't properly see the opportunities. Like, for example, one thing that I did back in college, which again, you can implement with anything, was I started realizing, like, I don't even need to come to these classes. And this is before AI was invented, because now, of course, you can use AI to do all your work and, like, summarize all the lessons. So instead of doing 3 hours of course, you just get in like a matter of seconds. But for me at the time, I just would, man, what did I used to do? I used to study like just like the night before on what the content was. And like, there's a way to like skim through it so I basically just kind of like half-assed it. And what I mean by that is like, I wouldn't show up in person, because that's what they would tell you to do, is like, you need to show up in person. Oh, but by the way, on the syllabus, it says that you like all this is available online, like on the website or whatever. So I was like, what am I coming to class for if it's on the website? And then some classes would say like, your attendance is not required. Some of them did. But so, and I think I only had one class. So I literally would show up for one class, and the rest of it I would do it online. So again, what I'm basically getting at is like, you want to be able to think more, because that's when you find opportunities to be able to do bigger things, or like even what we're talking about here, right? If you're just doing, you don't even take the time to really think about like how you're perceiving certain things or what you're planning for your future. You end up being 20 years down the line, you're like, what did I just do with my life?
You just wasted it all.
Where am I at? What am I doing? What, like, you know what I mean? Like, so I think ultimately what I would tell any young, especially entrepreneurs, is make sure that you think more and don't get stuck in the doing. Because again, ultimately we have to be able to use this. This is very powerful. Yeah. And even now to this day, as advanced as we are, we only have a certain percentage of our brain. Do you guys know the exact percentage of our brain that we have access to?
2 or 3%.
It's only 3% of our brain. Imagine that. That's insane.
I think something like that. Yeah.
And so you have to be able to use it, because we know that's a very powerful tool. And obviously that sounds like cliche, like use your brain, but it really is that simple. Just think more. Yeah. You know, and see things for what they are. Ask why. Ask questions. That's one thing that we constantly do too.
Ask why 3 times. You'll get to the answer, man. You know, exactly. People ask why once and they're like, oh, okay. You know, understand how things work.
And then ask again.
Ask again. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So I hope you really enjoyed today's podcast episode. We talked about so many different pieces of what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur, and most importantly, a successful human being, right? So thank you very much, Christian, for coming out here. Mo, my brother, business partner, friend, like family, everything,
we're
right?
Basically brothers.
We're basically brothers. Everything is all the same.
We look alike too.
We look alike. We share
they
like...
look alike more than me and him look alike.
Yeah, so 100%. People say that. People think that we're more like brothers than me and him. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. But really, like, you know, the reason why we wanted to bring this out here for you guys on a Saturday is because truly, from the bottom of our hearts, we really want you to be successful. We really want you to be in a place where you're truly living the life of your dreams and you're living to your highest potential self. And I truly believe that every human being should be able to experience that. And because of so many things in this market and so many people and so many things, there's so much BS out there that we have to, like, in our head, I mean, honestly, we didn't want to do this, right? We don't want to do this content stuff. We just much rather spend our time with the family or just work on ourselves. But we feel like it's a moral obligation. We just have to put out this stuff for people to really learn and to get better in their own life.
Absolutely.
Right? Which is why we even literally launch my agency for this specific reason, right? Because in the beginning, people were just asking us for advice. We were running our own businesses, right? People ask us, why do we do this? Well, it's because our friends started asking us, hey, how did you guys, you know, scale up this fast? How do you guys successful? So we would just hop on calls, right? We would take calls, and those calls would go like an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. And so many people started asking, because then what happened was their friends would also ask them. So now we're like, I mean, we're kind of doing this for free, right? It would be nice to not only get paid for it, but also like, can we scale this to a level where we can have other people, you know, step in, and can we build a team around it? Can we systematize it for other people? Because if our friends are asking for this, there are so many people who need this, which is why we launched my agency. So if you are this far, so if you've been watching so far,
you're fine.
So if you have been watching closely, I'd like to open up an opportunity to potentially partner with you on this thing. Because you've put in probably an hour or 2 hours, however long this podcast episode was, it seems to me that you have the right mindset to be able to partner with us, right? Because honestly, we are not for everyone. We're not everyone's cup of tea.
Absolutely.
We decline, what is it, about 45% of?
45 to 50.
45 to 50% of applicants who want to work with us, just because we don't resonate with them, we don't think alike, and we're not their champion. But for you who are watching this right now, there's a reason why you're watching this. Truly, you are wanting to get you're wanting to either partner with us or get closer with us. So we're going to go ahead and open up an opportunity to be able to book in a call with either myself, my business partner Mo, or with one of our team members to be able to see if this is kind of like what you want to do, right? We would be able to come in and basically build this whole digital marketing agency up for you from scratch.
So ultimately, we started launching my agency pretty much for ourselves. Like we said, when we first started, as you heard from our stories, we didn't have that support, and especially hands-on support. We're talking about 4 months to figure out what we're going to call our agency. And we've had clients that come to us who don't even know who they want to work with, their niche. We had a client who said he spent 2 years trying to figure out who he wants to work with, and with us within a matter of weeks, because we have the specialists and we have the experience that you can lean on. And again, we get hands-on, not just here's some videos that you can watch, adios, good luck. We're hands-on, we're helping you, and you have our team at your disposal. And I think the biggest thing too is the toughest part in running a business is a startup. It's a launch. Yeah. And that's exactly why we're called Launch My Agency, because we help entrepreneurs at heart start and launch their digital marketing agencies, done for you. So I think that's
yeah, I mean, like, also to kind of piggyback off that, we've done this for so many people. Like, so many people over and over and over again, that we have this thing so bulletproof and systematized that if you do the things that we ask you to, right? Common sense things, you don't have to, like, we're not going to have you do hula hoops and stuff. If you do the things that we ask you to, you will have a business that is on track to make at least 6 figures for the year. And that is a written black and white guarantee. Again, it's not a click of a button and that's it. No, you have to put in the effort. You have to put in the work, right? But we have the roadmap. We've done this not only for ourselves to a very, very high level, and we currently still do this, but also on top of this, we have hundreds of ultra successful clients who have done this over and over again. And we've even been able to sell a couple of these digital marketing agencies as well, right? So if you're interested in something like that, go ahead and book your call down below with someone from my team, and either Mo or myself will show up. So hope to see you soon on the other side. Take care.